Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, depending on where and when you are watching this broadcast. I'm Thomas Kessler, and this is Disclosure Tonight. Happy Saturday, everybody. Happy Lou Elizondo Saturday. Yeah, Lou's been nearing the end of his, he's been ending the near of his trip, the end of his time, the end of his plate. He's going to be going through seeing a lot of podcasts, and we're trying to cover these as they're coming along. Today, we're going to be taking a look at and watching segments of the interview over at That UFO Podcast. Some great questions, some great clarifications, and what's better than sitting back and enjoying a day with Lue Elizondo, my friends? Absolutely. So, recording of Lue Elizondo. I want to thank everybody for coming out here today, because this is not just about my disclosure or about Tom King's disclosure. Yes, we may have Rob, and Tim Sinor is going to pop in later on as well. But it's about each and every one of your disclosures. And not just that, disclosures happen. It's about the realization of all that information that's been locked up, all that information that's been kept secret for way too many years. And this is the time, this is the place going forward when, yes, the phenomena is real. Yes, what we're dealing with, whether we like it or not, it's here to stay. Because it's probably been here longer than us. It's probably been in existence longer than humanity. Sure, probably got to be for that. Yes, there's just a great time ahead of all of us, from getting rid of that tinfoil hat that we all used to wear, or they used to accuse us of wearing. And pass it on to the people who don't believe, who say, oh no, there's nothing out there. Well, the truth of the matter, they're in our skies. There's things piloting those, and some of those craft take our citizens, our friends away, and they bring most of them back. On that note, let me go ahead and jump into the studio. Oh, that's screwed up from last night. Let me see what I goofed up on this one. Oh, who is that? Chat capture should be here. It's there. What is that in the way? I'll just delete it, Tom. There we go. All right. So on that note, let's go ahead and where is the nameplate? I screwed this thing up. I don't know what the hell I did. Here we go. That isn't it. Anyway, welcome everybody. Let's go ahead and get this thing going here, shall we? You know what's got to be here. No, that ain't it. Give me that's why I had the chickens running around here earlier today. Apparently, I'm running around like a chicken. So anyway, actually, I can do it this way. Watch, here we go. Scene. I'm gonna go intro, silence. Where's it at? Almost there. Almost there. Sorry, it just bothers me. It's one of those things. Yes, I'm not sure when the heck that happened. Let's take that down, bring it down, and there we go. Perfect. All right, now we're set. On that note, let's go ahead and take a look in the chat and see who's around, shall we? All right, looks like we've got Cliff C. Welcome, Cliff. Good to have you around. Let me take this title card here now and move it down there just a little bit, and also move it down below the chat capture, and we're going to be absolutely perfect. There we go. Ah, excellent. So, Cliff C, welcome, welcome. Thanks for coming around. We've got Julie Farrell. Welcome, Julie. You know, when we hear Julie, it's always going to be me scrambling for find glasses, and then you always have to welcome Julie because, you know, she is our angelic friend. Thank you for coming around, Julie. And yes, thanks for reminding me. I was supposed to share this on Twitter, but yeah, Rob got into not an accident per se, but he had an accident. Went to open up the back of his blazer and had a air compressor stumble out and hit him in the knee. And on that note, I can see him in the back. Hey, we've got Rob around. Excellent. We'll get that all set up. So let's move along and see what else we have here. We've got the UK Interdimensional Arrivals Stargate 1. David, welcome, welcome. Thanks for coming around. Thanks for sharing the link. Our Ranch Airgun Fun Channel. Thanks for coming around, Brian. Hey, Thomas and gang. Happy Saturday to y'all, and happy Saturday, everybody. Hopefully this is your day off, and if not, enjoy their broadcast while you're at work. Why not? Oh, let's see. Clip C is saying language, communication, and cognition, metaphysics, language, mathematical set, awareness versus cognition versus Recognizing versus consciousness. He's got a lot of cool stuff out there in the start of the chat. Michael, LOL, welcome, welcome. Yes, I did a chicken before because I'm running around like a chicken this morning. Not quite like the ducks. Michael, LOL, thanks for coming around. Michael, Julie Farrell, of course, hi. Let's see who else we have out there. Tom King is in the chat and he is in the back. Thanks for coming out here, Tom. We greatly appreciate you being around and part of the crew. Let's move on, shall we? Let's see. Lots of great chat. Susan goes, time traveling Asians. Good afternoon, fellow Earthlings and curious beings of the greater galaxy. Welcome, Susan Goes, time traveling Asians. Love to have you around here. Linda Thompson. Linda, thanks for coming out. If you don't know Linda, you should. She is a lifetime UFO experiencer. That's right. She is a UFO researcher, and you've probably seen a bunch of her work just for other people because she's been behind the scenes. But today, Linda is now a investigator for MUFON. She's read the book, she's taken her test, and she's paid the price. And now she's going to be checking out a lot of orb sightings and a lot more. Welcome, Linda. It's always wonderful having you around here. Absolutely. Ooh, something's going on. Linda is listening to 2 channels at the same time. Now that is multitasking. Who else do we have out in the chat today? We've got Peggy. Happy Saturday, April 30th, 2022. And as a reminder, okay, Google, what's the temperature in Miami? The current temperature in Miami, Florida is 78 degrees. Well, somewhere in Florida, somewhere near here, it's 78 degrees and partly cloudy, a beautiful day. Thanks for coming in today. Lori Elephant. I'll be listening. Barn work to do. Took part of the day off and didn't clean this morning. Well, yeah, I kind of slept until noon 30 again, but sometimes when you have the chance, you need to take it. Who else do we have out in the audience today? Going slow. Christian Morales. Is UFO Podcast That UFO Podcast the same thing? Yes, it's That UFO Podcast. Absolutely. It's the same thing. And I've got a link to the original video down below in the description if you want to listen to it again after our analysis on it. We're going to be listening to it today, unlike our conversation with Dave last night, where we kind of brought Dave in and talked about the things Lou talked about. Since we don't have our friend here, we're going to be going ahead and watching it and commenting on it. And more importantly, hearing what people want to go think from the audience and communicating on that level. Let's take a look and see who else we have out there. Anna Calver? Really? Wonderful. Did you bring the donuts? I need some donuts. Sorry, it's Paradise PD. Um, you gotta watch it. It's on Netflix. It's a little bit crude, I guess, but you'll hear the voice. You'll know who I am. Anyway, who else we have out there? Rob Heatherly, also known as Robin Hood 1966. Yes, I am acquainted with a fellow researcher of ancient history. Thinking about that, where's Andrew? What happened to that collaboration with Andrew? We've got to figure that one out. Mr. Ancient History Criticisms. Great guy, absolutely. Who else do we have out there? Let's take a look. Well, Mr. Logan Black. Welcome, welcome. And I think we got Ghost. Welcome, Ghost. Thanks for coming around. Always great to have a ghost in the audience. Let's go ahead and pop that down. And if I can do this right, I need to go ahead and turn Rob on, put him in slot 2. Give me a second. I figured Rob was probably the least likely to come. So in slot, you are in slot 2, and slot 3. Slot 3 is Tim. And that note, let's go to the studio with Tom and Rob and Tom. How's it going, guys? Well, we got 2 Toms and Rob. How you doing, Rob?
Doing wonderful.
You look like you're feeling like shit.
Nothing like having a 70-pound air compressor fall on the tip of one's kneecap. Just that perfect angle to make you cuss like a sailor for hours. A little bit of bleeding and bruising, but mostly my ego. I'll be all right.
Yeah, and a lot of pain and discomfort. We can see it in your face, Tom.
Did you jump up and down? That's what I do when I'm hurt one leg, hop on the other for a little bit.
I couldn't jump after that. I just kind of fell back against the truck and said a few choice words, and then kind of waited a few minutes to see how bad the damage was going to be. It takes a little bit for that pain to creep in.
Yeah.
See how it's, if I can still walk, all that good jazz. But yeah.
In other words, for a few moments there, you emulated Tom King on a good day.
Yep.
And then some.
We could do worse than emulating Tom King.
Oh, nothing wrong with that. Just having some fun with it.
Nope.
Absolutely.
Oh, I know. Just saying. I respect the guy.
Oh, definitely. Oh, we all do. Everyone in the chat.
I can say all that without an air compressor falling on my knee.
Yeah, I do too. Sometimes I do.
Turn this down here a little bit so it's not so loud for everybody else, or maybe it doesn't pick up on my speakers. All right, perfect. So yeah, great day. I know both of us, all three of us, were over in the chat watching this interview yesterday. Great conversation from Lou, some good questions, some repeats and everything like that. And I figured what a great opportunity for us to sit back with permission to go ahead and look at parts of this video and hear what Lou has to say.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So on that note, I'm going to figure out, there we go. All right, so let's jump
Just wanted
into
to say, there's a lot of repeat questions, but the demographics that Lou chooses to interview with, they're in unique demographics sometimes where their audiences don't otherwise hear interviews or are aware of them. So for their viewerships and stuff, they do need to build that base of redundant questions.
Yeah. And hopefully it's not like let's hope, Lou's talking about going off the air. Let's hope, like they would say in the United Kingdom, he's not making himself redundant, because it's the last thing we want.
Well, you do get, in this field, you do get the same questions a lot. I mean, people don't know with me, the biggest case I was involved in was the Phoenix Lights and a bunch of smaller cases before and afterwards. But I get the same Phoenix Lights questions over and over throughout the years. And I have no problem answering them because everybody's going to have the same basics.
Yeah.
And you should be kind, answer, and be nice, to be glad they're asking anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
for those who don't know, you got some of the best footage from Phoenix Lights, right?
I was just the closest one to it, with a camera.
Sorry, Thomas, didn't mean to interrupt you.
And sometimes it's nice when you have that opportunity to go ahead and ask different questions and take it in a different way. And that was one of the things that we had done in our first interview with Lou, was ask him about some of his personal background, about some of the areas where things were at. And then in our second time Lou came around, was giving him the floor to go ahead and just talk about some of the weight and the issues that were, bearing down on him and his family. And the third time Lou came around, second time this year, was that getting away from the usual, let's ask a bunch of questions, and bring in Danny Sheehan, along with Sean Cahill, of course, to go ahead and open up the conversation and talk about, okay, how are we going to get this information out? Is there going to be if you want to call it, a constitutional lawyer who's taking a look at this and trying to find the way to, if you want to call it, break down the barriers of this national security state that was put into effect 75 years ago? I mean, that's true. I mean, we truly live in a national security state, no matter how you want to put it. The rights, the ability to know, the oversight that should be in place was taken away from us, at least the attempt taken away from us 75 years ago. Rob?
Yeah, and that was the real psyops being ran against the American people, was like what Richard Doty's job was, to misinform the American people and throw everyone off the trail that this was a legitimate topic, because the government didn't want people to know that. So people get that confused with disinformation agent and intelligence and counterintelligence. They're in completely two different disciplines, two different schools, two different theologies,
right,
and objectives.
Right.
It's entirely different. So counterintelligence is ascertaining what the enemy knows about us, which is completely different than psyops,
which is what Doty was doing.
baffling the American public and the rest of the world with bullshit, basically.
Right. Now,
was Richard Doty the only guy doing this, though? I mean, he's the only guy who admitted it.
There's
but
a lot.
Wouldn't there be a bunch of them?
Oh, yeah.
Doing what he's doing? Because
And
he couldn't single-handedly hold the disinformation stuff.
Just like Gary Reed, who was just stripped of all his powers and given a window seat with without any responsibilities more than sharpening the pencils on his desk. He was a person in play, but the thing was, there are many people before him. There are people who put him into that role of what he was doing, and there's a lot of other people down throughout the organization who are all carrying that torch, if you want to call it, to keep the information away. And we're at a point where that's going to have to come out, but we have to give those people an opportunity to come forward, to talk about what they've done, to give Congress an insight where it's at. Give them that, if you want to call it, that amnesty that Lou's been talking about. And that's something that Lou may be having to go, and why he's going into the back for a bit, to try and get the next plans of what he's talked about in a lot of these interviews and to bring them to fruition. Because if you can focus on that, rather than having to go on a bunch of different podcasts all the time, which we know Lou loves to, and he likes to be a part of the community, sometimes when you're the leader and you've been the army of one, sometimes your need has to be with those higher level people and to be running in those circuits and on their agenda to get this agenda, not even agenda, this mission of disclosure, to bring it to reality. Rob?
Hey, very curious thing. I called the DIA office in the Pentagon Thursday, and they told me, and I asked them, I wanted to inquire about Gary Reed's present status, what his title was, and any duties, and if he had any personnel under him, and or what their responsibilities were also. And they told me that I would have to email, and it was persistently monitored, so they would get right back with me, that she couldn't answer my question. So I sent an email the next morning stating I sent it an hour later, about 3:00 in the afternoon, and asking if he, what his position was in the DIA, and if he had any subordinates, and what their duties would be and what his are. And they sent me an email back at 5:59 a.m. the next morning, Eastern time, that stated that we will get back with you promptly. And I have not heard back from them yet. So, it should be a straightforward answer. What his position is as a senior authority in the organization. That's publicly available information.
Right.
If he weren't at the DIA now, they would have said, he's not here. You need to call the DOD. They didn't tell me that.
No, of course.
So that tells us he's in the DIA now, and they're playing damage control now by not letting the public know what his position is. If he's still riding a desk with no responsibilities and duties, which seems to be the case, they don't want to tell us.
Yeah, and it's almost something that, as you're going through this, if you don't hear anything by Monday morning, your time, whenever that would be when you get up, do a reply back and said you promised you would get promptly back to this. What is the expected time frame for this? Because promptly is a hedge, meaning we're going to get back to you soon, but they're not giving you an actual time frame of how long it's going to take.
Yeah, and they said it was I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Take it.
They said it was persistently monitored, which implies explicitly that they would be right back with that information, just drop in the email and they'd shoot it right back. They had 2 more hours of their business day and the entire next day of Friday to answer me, and they didn't. It was the first thing on somebody's agenda on Friday morning to have gotten it out the door at 5:58 a.m. DC time.
Yeah.
That in itself is kind of telling that it was a priority for somebody to address when they first got into their office for that day, and then they didn't touch it again.
Right. Just one of those things we're going to find out. But remember, someone above Gary Reed, someone with an authority to say, I want you to handle stuff this way, gave him that responsibility, gave him that, not just the responsibility, gave him the direction to squash down anything from Lou, to keep anything about UAP out of it, because it started to leak and they wanted to try and stop it. Thank God we're in a situation now where we're beyond the opportunity, the ability for them to go ahead and put this genie back in the bottle, as Lou would say. It's out. It's moving forward. Congress has got accountability on, with a capital A, make it a legal term. requesting all information regarding UAP, UFOs, etc., from everywhere within the DoD, everywhere, and all the intelligence including all the intelligence agencies, and all that information was due about a month ago.
Yeah, and we can't lose sight that Susan Go is a psyops. That's what she did in the military with psychological operations, and she did write that paper in 2003, which is infamous now among those in the know. That she wrote that you cannot separate the duties of being a public information officer and psyops; they are inseparable. Because she didn't write this. This is me paraphrasing. You have to paint the narrative you want to portray to the American people, and you use that position to paint that picture. And I think that some people with the FOIA process are being inadvertently manipulated through that process of what they release when and to whom.
Yeah. Speaking of which, everyone keeps on bringing up Susan Go, and we have to play our regular sound effect that we've got.
Okay. Hey, Thomas.
Yeah.
We got somebody wanting to call in right now.
Hello, Susan. Yeah. Who's that?
Lou.
Oh shit! Really?
Yeah.
All right. You need a link?
Yeah, actually, call in a minute to say hi. If you're up for it, need a number.
A phone number?
Yeah, shoot him a text.
He can. Yeah.
I'll send him your number. I know what it is.
Yeah, and I should be able to bring him in through this. Yes. Son of a gun.
Thomas, Lou talked about we've all heard about an amnesty and stuff, but wouldn't government people have like qualified immunity or something? I mean, because I can imagine if somebody works for the government and you're told do this, and then later you're told you're going to jail for it.
You're gonna have to send it. My phone just all of a sudden went black. It never does that.
Don't worry about it. I got it.
Well, what a treat for everybody, all of the regulars.
I'm getting there. It came back online. Okay, I got it to her.
Oh, I said, was it from his phone or Jennifer's?
It's hers. She said they need a number for them to call, so I sent it. Or you can call him. Well, I don't know which phone they're going to call from, so I don't want to make the miss. Huh?
That sounds good to me.
Just stand by, please.
Please stand by.
Yep.
Son of a gun.
Yeah, speak of the devil. Huh.
Yeah.
Well, figuratively.
Absolutely.
I can send him a link to the. Would you be able to bring it in?
We got it.
Okay.
Let's see if I can get this to come across. Go to here. 1 second, Lou. Hold on. I need to get this together here. Hopefully it's going to show up. Yeah, Lou, hold on a second. Hold on. I'll get your audio there. I just got to find out where it is.
It's bouncing around the Stratoverse.
I know. I can't find the freaking window. Okay, Lou, can you hear me? If you can't hear me, I can't set the preferences here, please. Yeah, we can hear you. Hold on 1 second, Lou. Give me a second here to figure out why it will not let me. There we go. FaceTime video. You're going to get microphone is going to be FaceTime. We got you. We got you now. Okay, and we can you hear me now?
I can hear him.
Okay, let me make sure you're coming through on the desktop. 1 second here, Lou. Sorry, it's just I want to make sure I've got that. OBS composite audio. Actually, I've got FaceTime caller. Yep. Let me go to FaceTime caller. Is going. Hold on 1 second here. Sorry, buddy. Properties. OBS FaceTime.
No, it's a welcome ambush.
Okay, yeah. I think we should be set, Lou. Perfectly.
Excellent.
Yep.
Wow.
They're saying they can't hear him.
Hold on. Wait 1 second here. Oh, damn it, they can't hear. Let me get to advanced audio properties, make sure. FaceTime
Breathe.
caller. Okay. One more time. Sorry about that, Lou.
Can everybody hear me now?
Yeah, they can hear you now. Yes.
Okay. Well, first of all, please allow me. First, thank you very much for giving me a few minutes here. I just want to take a couple moments. Sorry for the ambush, guys, and breaking in. I won't take long because I'm still weather. But I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you to you, gents, and to everybody else, and thank you for clearing the mystery behind counterintelligence. Rob, you're absolutely right. Between counterintelligence and psychological operations, you're 100% correct. Counterintelligence is knowing what the enemy knows about you. Psychological operations is influencing the enemy through information operations. So good on you for knowing that. These are nuances that a lot of people don't know because they're not steeped in intelligence, and I understand that. But there is a big difference. And so you're absolutely correct for pointing that out. I also wanted to thank you, gents, specifically in your audience, for sticking through this for the last few years. I know it's been an interesting ride, but so far your assessments are 100% spot on. You're absolutely correct. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of things happening right now behind the scenes. There's a lot that's going to come out. There's a lot that people are going to be really, really surprised to know what's going on and to realize how serious the government is taking this. Unfortunately, I know people are impatient and want things to happen faster. We do too. We're not trying to slow roll this, but we are trying to do this correctly.
Yeah.
And I think we're getting there. I really do. And I want to thank you guys again for dispelling a lot of the misinformation. I won't say disinformation, but I will say misinformation that's out there on what I'm trying to achieve, what's happening behind the scenes, difference between intelligence versus counterintelligence, things like that, because that type of detail does matter. I think people need to be informed. And unfortunately, when they're not informed, and I get it, sometimes I'm probably too vague, but I have to be. In that gap of information, people will tend to fill in the details that they want to. So again, I just wanted to say thank you both Rob and Tom. And I'll tell you something else too. My wife is a huge fan of another individual as well, Linda Thompson. She's always there with wonderful comments and nice insight. I had a privilege of meeting her very, very briefly, only virtually. At some virtual event that I think Mr. Dolan was hosting, but lovely lady. And this community never ceases to amaze me. Every time I take a shot in the face from some troll, it's so wonderful to see the outpouring that comes out from you folks. Christina Zanone Gomez, Tim McMillan, these folks have been amazing. And I'll tell you, by the way, Tim is hardcore, man. This is a guy who is an investigator by training, right? So he doesn't do fluff pieces. This guy doesn't mind, calling in the vernacular a spade, in card games. So it's been wonderful, and it's that type of support that has motivated me to continue doing what I'm doing. And before I jump off into the sunset, so to speak, and get off social media for some time, I just wanted to call and say thanks, just from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. For all the bad trolls out there. It makes my wife and my kids and myself feel so much better. And just when I feel like, forget it, I'm going to throw in the towel. People aren't worth it. People like you come out and they give me the motivation and the drive to continue doing what I'm doing. And the same holds true with Chris Mellon and all my colleagues. So I just wanted to say thank you. I'm not going to, like I said, monopolize much of your time here, but just a big shout out to everyone. I mean, I have a long laundry list of folks I need to say thank you to, so I'll do it in my book. Make sure you guys look at the back page because there's going to be probably several pages, I suspect, of thank yous. But bottom line is we would not be here in a conversation if it wasn't for you. And that's a fact.
Yeah.
You and everybody else out there that's pushing forward towards disclosure and transparency and truth. And, one day history will look back, and I think they're going to look at this as a grassroots effort. I think they're going to look back and say, this happened because people were engaged. The right people were involved, and the public wanted to know, and they were going to take the power back.
Yeah.
And And I think it's happening. I cannot wait until this next year comes out, because there's going to be some, look, Tom, you have no idea how accurate you are when you're talking about topics like amnesty. So I'll just leave it at that. But know that we're working hard. We've heard what you guys have said. We've heard what other people have said, and we are representing those views. I think in a very effective manner.
And it's not like you're going away. You're just going to do the job that you're there to do. And it's when you're going to be working with people in Washington and other areas, you're going to have a schedule. You're going to have a lot of things going on, and you need to be hyper-focused on this.
In fact, I maybe even have, some could argue I'll even have a more greater and effective presence, just not on social media.
Yeah.
And
you're always welcome here to give an update for people without a question and answer format, just to come in and brief people of where things are at. If there's especially if there's a significant shift of that's pushed out in the media cycle, and like you said before, if it needs nuanced and better articulated, you're more than welcome to come here anytime and do that.
Rob, I appreciate that, and I'll tell you, don't be surprised if I take you up on that offer. I won't say too much, but there's a lot of people that you have, because you guys are fair-minded and even-handed. There's a lot of people on the inside that trust you guys, and I don't want to embarrass anybody here, but you've gained the confidence of some of those people, and you know who I'm talking about. These are people who would never ever ever step out of the shadows, and they've trusted you two especially, to have a conversation, and a few others, because you guys are honestly trying to get to the bottom of it. So again, my hat's off to you. Thank you very much, guys, for everything. And you're, of course, more importantly, to your amazing audience. Really, really appreciate it. And anybody out there right now that's either doing dishes or folding clothes or sitting, in your bedroom, looking at TikTok videos while you're listening to this, thank you. Thank you. Because ultimately, we're doing this because of you, and we have only succeeded because of you. So,
well,
with that, gentlemen, I'm going to go. I'm going to shut up here and take some more NyQuil. And but thank you again. Really, thank you for everything you guys do.
Well, thank you, Lou. I appreciate you. Go ahead, Rob.
I just want him to know that it's not just the mission and the information that we're trying to learn, why we do what we do. It's also because we saw the need that you and your family as people needed the support, and too many people were staying silent because they were being oppressed, and we just couldn't sit back and allow that.
Yeah, well, it's appreciated. Know that my wife especially appreciates it, because it's kind of hard. You feel like you're put into a boxing ring, and they say, okay, now here's a blindfold, and we're going to tie one hand behind your back, and we're going to shackle your feet so you can only move 6 inches from the ropes, and it's tough. So when you have people like that, trying to help defend you, it does help, guys. It really does. There's been times I just said to myself, it's just not worth it.
It's great to hear you've got a team coming together, and look forward to hear your introductions to the different people on the team. And as stuff goes forward and everything, we know it may not be coming directly from you and everything, but it'll be coming through Skyfort probably. And it's an organization that's there, it's growing, and it's something that's going to be important, not just for the United States, but it's going to be something that's going to be an important organization worldwide, and that's what people need to
Brother, you're right. We've got the UK. We've got a group of folks in the UK, some folks in Canada that are really picking up the torch on this, man, and they're giving their governments hell on this, man. They really are, and they're not settling for just vanilla responses. They want details, and they want truth, and they want transparency. And you know what? Their governments are listening. So you're right, man. It's working.
I mean, we've got congressional hearings coming up now down in Brazil, because they want to know what's going on.
Well, and you know what? That's not the only one. I'll leave it at that, but don't be surprised. And I'm talking near term. So,
hey, really, there isn't much of anything that you haven't kind of given a little nugget of information about, those little breadcrumbs that hasn't been coming to fruition. So looking forward to a lot of the stuff. You've been kind of giving us the nod and the wink on pieces of where this can possibly go.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it, guys, and thanks for your patience, because a lot of stuff I'm restricted from saying. So sometimes I have to speak in riddles and poems, but most people, eventually are clever enough to get it and put the pieces together.
Yeah,
the essence is there. Yeah, definitely. We can accept that.
Yeah.
So,
anyways, gents, I'm gonna let you go. I didn't
tremendous,
want to bother you all with this, but thank you, and again, thank you to your great audience and to your hosts and co-hosts and the production team and everybody working this behind the scenes.
Absolutely. Thanks,
thank
Lou.
you
And feel
sincerely.
better. You looked like hell a couple nights ago. Hopefully you don't
Yeah,
have
you
that
know, I
dang
felt
virus
like
again.
I felt even worse. I still feel pretty bad, but you know, I feel a little better. So just a little bit of rest, I think, and
We'll
R&R.
do an instant test because you and
Yeah.
Jenna, you and your wife could be compromised at this point.
No, absolutely, absolutely.
And if she ever
Wouldn't be
wants
the
to
first
find a
time.
place to come and say hi, we're here as well. Because I know you kind of mentioned
You
that
know,
the other
she's
day.
been tempted to a few times. You know, my wife.
she can come on and let her rip.
Well, her family's actually background is Ukrainian. There's the Hungary and Czechoslovakia and the whole area is kind of a long time ago, kind of the same. But her family's from a town in Ukraine, and boy, I tell you, she's not afraid to give her opinion.
Oh,
You know,
good,
I
yeah.
often joke sometimes you have to, when she gets going, man, you got to stand back 10 feet and throw a net on her and dart her because she's fiery, man, and she's not afraid to give her opinion. So God bless her and God love her, man. She's an incredible
Yeah.
human being and has been there for
Well,
me through.
I don't think you would be here if you didn't have her, honestly.
Oh, I wouldn't be. No, absolutely. No, absolutely. Absolutely. You
Mhm.
know, having a trusted partner in this world it's a blessing and a gift. You know, the only sad thing is that some people don't ever find that, but I'm very lucky and like I said, very blessed.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, get some rest, buddy.
So
I'll feel better. And because you're the leader of a great organization who's got some important things to do, and we can't wait to see the stuff come to fruition.
well, gents, I appreciate it. I also appreciate your sage advice. Believe me, I take it to heart.
Good
Absolutely.
deal. Appreciate it.
All right, guys.
Take care.
Listen,
Thanks,
have a
Lou.
wonderful evening and please give my regards to everybody.
Oh, they've already got them. Thanks. I appreciate that, Lou. We definitely will.
You got it. Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Wow.
Damn.
Thank God I got that working yesterday.
Yep.
I was like, shit, put it together now. And please work again. That was unexpected. I want to thank Philip Marlowe for the freaking super chat that came in here. Holy cow. Where's the music to kick up for that
He's a
one?
good man, Charlie Brown.
Yes, absolutely. Now, yes, we got a super chat coming in from Mr. Philip Marlowe, my favorite people, Robin, Thomas, and Tom, and all the associated with this podcast. Still saddened by the continued hatred directed towards Lou and family. Those who hate will eventually understand their errors and will be dealt with. Yes, there is something called karma. And karma does add up, and eventually you have to pay the cost one way or the other. Hopefully just not all at once, because that can have some nasty situations associated with it. But thank you, Philip Marlowe, for that wonderful super chat. Absolutely. Wow.
Philip was very instrumental in helping us push back during that 503 blow up and everything. Through all that, he was highly supportive of me, helping coordinate and logistics of all that, and also directly pushing back on Twitter against them.
Yeah.
He was a very vocal proponent for that.
Yeah.
So tremendous appreciation for him too.
Yeah.
And those that also helped me that I can't name.
Right. It's
So,
one of those
yeah.
things when we saw it going on, it was like, Rob, we've got to do this. And you're like, yeah, I know. And it's just because we haven't been afraid. When we've seen people that are going and, like, for instance, the wicked rich of the East going ahead and attacking Lou, attacking his wife, attacking his family and everything. Yeah. We don't put up with that. And we call it out late. We've been kind of quiet on it and just let them make their noise in the background. But when it was necessary, we step forward and say what's right because, we're not afraid of the trolls. We've got one hell of a troll army here to take care of it when they can't come in. And that's why we've got it, because we, in some respects, yes, we've gotten death threats and other stuff out of it and a whole bunch of nasty stuff that's been said. But the reality is we stand behind Lou. We're here to go ahead and be here to make sure that his voice, his mission could go forward. And more importantly, know that he's got the support. And there are people out there, many, countless, that have his back.
Yeah, and it was like he said before when he came on here over that debacle, that he was fair game, but not his family, and that was what the straw that broke a lot of camel's back for a lot of people, is putting his family at risk like they did, and that's just off limits. So I don't want to give you more oxygen to that situation, but the people that help with that, I deeply appreciate.
Oh gosh, yes, absolutely.
I'm
And
thinking the people that go after him don't have a family. Some of these anonymous trolls out there, if they had a family member that, somebody on the internet went after them so they can feel what it's like, I don't think they have that. There must be some lonely people with nothing going on just to
Because
go
I'm
after these
listening.
people.
I'm gonna
Yeah, and they're
listen.
completely firewalled behind anonymity to where, like with Squidding, nobody knows who he really is. And he's accusing others of having sock puppet accounts and weaving obfuscation against the American people, or, of manipulation. What's he doing? Why does he have to be anonymous, to have his account where his name is not on it? I use my real name. Anyone can Google who I am, and in minutes know where I live, everything else. I don't hide it. I have nothing to hide. I put my name on everything for a reason. But I do understand why people, people in government and celebrities have to have anonymous accounts, because for this exact reason. They have super fans and they have super villains that are after them both. And they need to be in this conversation also, and that's the only way they can do it and have some shred of anonymity to interact as if they were, Joe UQ public.
right.
So it's completely warranted.
Well, the stigma isn't as bad now as it was decades ago, but how I see it's changed, because they still go after you. Look at what they did to Lou. Back in my day when I was in this, they went after people, and we had the internet, but it wasn't easy to go after somebody's family member. I mean, back then they had the damn white pages, and you could just call information. I could call information back in the day and get any UFO celeb's phone number, but today it's still the same thing. The stigma's not as bad, but back then it's like, you can get fired. I mean, if they could find out who you work for, that's the whole thing, is to take away your livelihood. That's the ultimate goal, is to take away. Do you have a college degree? You specialize in something? Well, now you're screwed, because we ruined your reputation. That's what these people want to do to you. They still want to do that to Lou, because he's the tip of the spear in ufology at this point, him and Chris Mellon.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, great conversation. It was unexpected to have Lou kind of pop in like this, but it's nice to have him come in. And really looking forward to the people who are going to be working, from Skyfort. It's going to be, he mentioned Sean Cahill and others. And, there's a group of people in Canada, United States, and the United Kingdom. And, like you said, congressional hearings, it sounds like they are happening. It's not just in Brazil, but it's something that Lou's been bringing up for some time.
It sounds like he's entering a new phase. Some people are saying Lou's, walking away from this. Let me just say, just because you're not going to be on podcasts and social media doesn't mean you quit ufology. Ufology is not Googling YouTube.
Nope.
Podcast and Twitter. Ufology is talking to people, going out in the field, meeting people, doing research, leaving the house, spending money, putting gas in the car, going places, meeting people, going to meetings, maybe joining MUFON or some type of group, but doing field research. It's not podcast. That's not research. That's an extension of UFO research to publicize and put your results out there. When I burnt out in this in 2003, I just pulled the plug. It was real quick. It was like, I can't take this anymore. I did everything I could. And then I figured, whatever these things are, they could end this overnight, or the government could end this overnight. But little Tom over here in Phoenix doesn't have the power to end this. So I'm just going to go away, stay with my family for a while. And 12 years later, I came back and fell in the UFO pool again. It sounds like he's moving into another phase, which is great, because it doesn't sound like he burnt out. It seems like he completed this first part. Now he's going to another part.
Well, it sounds like he's building a team. And because there is no I in team at this point, it's a group of individuals who are going to be working at higher levels. And if Lou has to go ahead and be spending this additional time talking to members of the House and Senate and the executive branch, potentially working within the DOD and et cetera, to go ahead and move forward and operationalize what's going on, go for it, my friend, because that's what we need. And if we need to be able to go ahead and move this thing forward, the only one who's going to be able to do it truly is Lou. Rob?
Yeah, and I don't see that people forgot when he started coming on and doing these. I came into this about a year ago now, and I went back and watched every interview I could of him, and read every article,
Yeah.
literally. And only one of them touched on who he was as the person, and the
rabbit hole.
vitriol that came out, that came out against him. It was somewhere along the way they got confused and thought that he was on trial in the court of public opinion, and that they had a right to make all kinds of inflammatory comments and accusations and say that he had to answer hard questions. He doesn't have to answer any questions whatsoever of anyone. It was all voluntary. Do you see anyone else out here with his knowledge and his security clearance risking that because he wanted to share that with the American people? It wasn't to run a psyop. It was to try and benefit this community that had been fed full of shit so long that they're growing mushrooms off their hats and things. He wanted to set the record straight and get some credibility back into the topic, and the small, very vocal proponent of people that were organized, they didn't actually want answers. They just wanted to shut him up because the true message went against the ones that they had been selling for so long with impunity, and there was no way to fact check it. And now that there is, they couldn't tolerate that, so they tried to silence it. And he doesn't owe anyone an answer on anything.
Yeah.
And he did everyone a solid by coming out and educating us on what he could.
Yeah.
We're very thankful for that.
Absolutely.
So he doesn't have to answer the hard questions. He has answered a lot.
People were looking for the UFO Snowden. Most people out there, I mean, I'm one of the few people, if I go someplace, you will not see me on my phone. I'll just look around and talk to people. I don't have that instant gratification thing. I'll wait. People want everything and they want it right now. They basically, I guess, wanted him to come out and say, here's all the videos. Here's what happened. The aliens are named this and they're from here. And this is happening there. And then now I got to move to Russia and become besties with Edward Snowden. What he did is he came out, but he got to keep his family. He got to keep what he's doing. But he came right up to the line and he didn't cross it. He gave us everything he could to legitimize ufology as far as he could. He got the UAP report coming out, him and Chris Mellon. He got this into legitimate conversations. The giggle factor and the little green men stuff is dropping to the side. And he got to keep his life without having to move to Russia.
And his integrity.
People don't appreciate that. Some people don't. It's pretty disgusting. They want him to throw away his entire career with his family and his kids just so they can go, oh, okay, it's this. He doesn't owe anybody shit.
Yeah, absolutely. Something that Chan just said, we are in this, we are where we are because of Lewis. He'll go down in history, right? And the truth of the matter is, with the information that's going to be coming forward, yes, the history books, the science books, maybe even some parts of our religious texts will be rewritten and clarified to bring us to where, this next level of humanity. And, I just keep on saying where this is, if you want to call it, Tom, you may be able to reflect on this. Wouldn't you say this is probably one of the most transformational, one of the most important times in humanity that we've had for thousands of years, if not longer?
Well, this is definitely, we've hit the tipping point with what him and Chris have done. They basically lit the spark of this eternal UFO fire that's not going out anymore. This genie is not going back in the bottle. Yeah. It's become legit, and we're not going to go back to giggling about little green Martians anymore. I mean, we have military, active duty people in the military like Ryan Graves coming out saying this is a safety issue and then some, because these things are flying around with impunity. So we're just, everything we have makes an explosion behind us. We go this way. That's all of our technology.
Or Tom, they may be looking at us and saying, what's up with these things? We're letting them flying around here with impunity as well, meaning that they're giving us to what is technically their airspace.
Well,
That's us.
I
How do
think
we know it's our airspace?
We don't know
I think
exactly.
I think we're sharing it with a higher order, like history shows that um that likely they're not a one order of beings, because ancient history does show that there were an earlier iteration of humans on the planet that intermingled with more primitive humans that were the majority of civilization, that set themselves up sometimes as little g gods. They built all these megaliths and things, and there are a lot of um, myths and religions both from the earliest times that indicate that they warred with themselves also, and with humanity, for something where it looks like they were seeding,
Hello.
that there were higher beings that were seeding these advanced humans with technologies, and they went to war with each other, like by proxy, with higher beings. And I know it sounds sci-fi, but the research is there that it clearly indicates that there was conflict among orders of beings, and they weren't just one order. There were different orders of them that are evident, left in the petroglyphs and everything else, not just the writings. And there's a lot of corroborating evidence.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a late joiner who came in. Tim, you were kind of seeing what was going on from the back,
Hey,
seeing what's
hey,
happening
hey.
in the whole thing. And, what's your overall take
Yeah,
on this?
yeah. Great to see Lou give a mention and jump on the show and shout out. Great farewell speech for the moment. I don't think it's a goodbye as much
No.
as a see you for now. He needs to obviously focus on bigger and better things. I think that's pretty clear. And so it's great. He deserves a hiatus. We all need time away.
Yeah. But
And
it's
so
it's
this will
just a
give him that
hiatus though,
time to
Tim,
focus.
from
Yeah,
social media where he's,
right.
if you want to call it, he's zeroing in and focusing in on some really important stuff to move this agenda forward. And I'm not keep on calling it
Right.
agenda. It's not agenda, to move the mission of disclosure forward, because clearly
Yeah,
he's on a mission, not for him, but for humanity.
it's
And
great
the
stuff. And
Q&A kind of became a dog and pony show that was more focused on entertainment value rather than the peripherals and the gossip, rather than the substance of the mission. And then a lot of it was the detractors wanting to focus on trying to discredit him, so they dissected every aspect of everything he said in his entire life. And
yeah,
like he said, inadvertently he became a distraction, and it put his family at risk. And he wants people to give the attention where it needs to be. And on this topic, it affects all of humanity, and we don't know how it's going to affect us yet. Like you said, he wants to under promise and over deliver. I think we need to temper our expectations of what we think this is going to bring to bear when we know more of disclosure. Uh, we don't know how it's going to work out. In ancient
great
history, a
point.
lot of civilizations disappeared without a trace, and we don't know what happened to them. And I'm not
You know
saying that's
what?
what's going to happen to us, but we don't know.
Yeah.
It's a great point. And to further that, I look forward to hearing from Skyfort. Sean Cahill is a poet and a Jedi and a gentleman, and I look forward to
Yeah.
any time that we get hearing from him and working with him
Yeah.
publicly.
But it's going to be Sean, and it's going to be others. So it's going to be an
Yeah,
organization that you just have to realize we're going from a one-man army, a one-man band, if you want to call it, and we're taking it up to a situation where we've got now Lou in the driver's seat of this organization with an agenda of what they're going forward with, a mission, doing the planning for it, and trying to get it to where it needs to go. So it's great to see, if you want to call it how you would say it, Lou's getting out of the trenches, and he's getting into that leadership area where he needs to go to, I keep on saying, to take it where it needs to be, Tom.
Well, I'd say don't put all your eggs in the Lou basket, okay?
Yeah.
Don't sit back like this with your popcorn going, okay, Lou, let's see what you got next. He needs all of our help. He needs everybody. Somebody here in the chat, or one of us, could be the next guy who walks out the door and sees something and records it on your phone or something. We had a guy, Nicky, who had an incredible sighting. He's a regular here. We have Tim. He's seen his stuff. I've recorded my share and some of yours.
Yeah.
Maybe I've recorded a lot of Rob shares of stuff, but anybody out here can contribute to make change. We need
Yeah.
UAPX, the Galileo Project. other projects that haven't even started. This is a combined global worldwide effort to get to the bottom of this. So we need all of us working together and not fighting to keep going ahead to find out what the heck this is all about. So it's not all on Lou. He's not Hercules. He can't do all this himself.
No.
He needs the help of the whole
Well, he's been
community.
doing a lot with his wonderful wife, helping him to get the stuff there, but it's at the point to start delegating, getting the people in, and letting him get into focus where he needs to. And I'm looking forward to see what's happening next. As Rob just said, Lou is legion. There are tremendous amounts of people who support him and his family, even if it requires boots on the ground defense and advocacy. Why don't you fill us in on that one, Rob?
Well, there's been, I have not been able to shake it since the other night where he was talking about where he inadvertently swatted a hornet's nest with some very senior officials that feel like he is out to get them, which he said, repeatedly that he was not, but they perceive it as a threat, that he's just trying to help them in this narrative. And, I'm not making any threats. I just want these, any of those people to understand, Lou is a veteran first and foremost, and if they aren't veterans, they should know how veterans do stick together. And if one veteran is taken down, there would be hell to pay. I say it about any veteran I know, and I've done it for other veterans that I know. And when I've literally gone and house sat with him, when they had an impending home invasion or something expected, I'd pack up, necessary gear, and I'd go and I'd house sit for them or with them. Right. Because, it's the right thing to do. And, you risk life and limb, but that's what soldiers do. They took an oath to defend and protect, with their life if necessary.
Yeah.
And, I, for one, would give that back if necessary. I'd lay my life down for him, or I'd do it for any of you. It's not just him because he has celebrity status in the community. It's because he's a decent guy with high integrity, and I can respect that. And, there are far worse things that you could risk your life to protect and defend. Yep. So I just want to caution those that might have any kind of thoughts toward doing him or any of his associates and stuff harm. I wouldn't.
Yeah. Well, I think first comes a husband maybe, or a father, and then, husband, then a father, or father, then husband. And then, he's a veteran, but all of those things that he's had, those responsibilities, he takes all of them seriously.
Yeah. Yeah. And he stands on principle, and he swore an oath, and, that's what soldiers do, especially for each other. They're willing to sacrifice everything to protect, for the greater good. And, I seen that of him. And, I with anybody that has integrity, and if they didn't start something, I know scores of veterans like me that if they need, they'll answer that call.
Yeah.
That's all I really
And this
want
is
to
the one
say.
thing I've been saying for a while, and you can verify it, Rob. I've been saying veterans are the key to a big point in supporting Lou. And if you want to call it getting boots on the ground, protests in the street, getting people out there to say, yes, we deserve to know, we want to know. The veterans are all part of that close-knit family to Lou. And when they did say things and they did question and try to say that Lou was a man of stolen valor, they all stood up. So it's a matter of finding the different parts of the family we have to start making ourselves known, to start making that noise, to come together as a group and to be seen so citizens can be heard. Because now we've got Lou going and bringing together those in Congress support the initiative. But besides phone calls that can go on to our representatives, we need to make ourselves known visibly in groups, not just in Washington, D.C., but at our different capitals, in front of our senators' homes, in front of their offices, in front of our representatives' offices, and get the press involved to say, hey, we've got groups of people out there that are demanding this to come forward. We have to get out of, it's coming out of the shadows. And as Lou had said in the past, it's about focusing on, in some ways, that 99% of the people, or 99.9% of the people who are outside of social media, who are outside of UFO Twitter, and focus on the true big picture of society.
Rob,
Yeah.
got a question for you. People in the chat are asking about, what's coming next. Lou's talking about, possible like an amnesty to get, people who they can't talk because, they can't. They're in the active duty or, retired military. We've had recent cases on both coasts where we have UAPs harassing military ships, just saying, go ahead, fire first, and then see what happens. I mean, this is getting to a dangerous situation here.
Harassing is like throwing insults and other stuff and doing stuff to tempt them. It sounds like these things are just kind of like a puppy dog that's tailing, that's kind of following along and kind of seeing what's going on. Or like birds or seagulls or hornets.
Well, if you're flying directly over a ship, they can shoot your ass
but
down.
Maybe
we're directly at planes and hovering over their flight deck where they can't launch planes.
But who knows what the hell, and I'll say this with the hell word, what the hell the Navy was doing in the Channel Islands off of LA, and they were going and they did something to have them come out and swarm. It's not something that magically they were just driving their boat.
We don't know that.
Well, we have probably, let's say, at least a few hundred, maybe thousands of sailors on these different ships
who've seen
stuff, and they are just can't wait to tell people, you would not believe what I freaking saw. But
and think of all of the cases that occurred.
The Navy has opened up channels since 2019 to allow whistleblowers to come forward with information. The Air Force, by law, implemented a way to report, but they also gave a gag order on all the airmen to not share anything outside their direct chains of command, to where they set it up as a token gesture. But there's been no information that I'm aware of yet forthcoming that's made it into the public purview to know that they're opening up to allow an atmosphere where they can feel safe to report to their superior officers. But there are methods in place now for them to report that. But I think he was more talking about these formerly rogue silos, the people that worked within those, and their corresponding private industries like aerospace corporations that helped reverse engineer certain materials maybe and profited from that. I think that there may be some tremendous pushback from those entities because there's a lot of money on the line with some of these organizations and people. So
we're talking two different things then here. We're talking the sailors or the Air Force, that's not happening. But the sailors and the Navy can file a UAP report now. And I guess that's all classified from what we're hearing. So that goes into a rabbit hole that only the government has that I guess gets funneled into the UAP report eventually. And Lou's talking about a whole nother level of corruption up on the DNI and Area 51 and all these unaccountable black programs and who knows what they're doing.
Yeah. On that note,
is that the amnesty he wants for these people or for just the whole military?
Yeah.
The people that would still have something to offer disclosure, like if they had all the equipment, the scientists, the research already vested, that if they want to participate and be part of the solution, that they would be offered amnesty, from what I remember of an interview previously with Lou. And, they have a certain amount of time to come forward and do that, without facing prosecution.
Yeah. Quick thing to Adrian Reister. Reister, like Meister. All right. You may be surprised. Air Force has had some movement, some things going on, and there's a good chance that things in the Air Force are changing, and it's the tides are definitely going in the opposite direction of where the Air Force was for a long period of time. It's something that's been needed for a while. Now, before we could keep on talking about this for a while, but we do have part of an interview from Lou, and one of the things Lou was asked about was about UAP technology over time. Do you guys want to hear that?
Let's do it.
Yes.
Over time, you mentioned pilots chasing these objects for up to half an hour or longer, and back in the Tic Tac event that's been talked about ad nauseum, that they were hovering for hours and 12 hours at a time, which we just don't have that technology. Has there been any data presented to yourself you can talk about that we've noticed that the technology of these UAP have improved over time? You've mentioned that going back to the 50s and 60s we've seen these objects, but is there any notable difference now?
No, it seems to be the same technology being displayed. I mean, we have radar tracks and radar data, these things doing upwards of 13,000 miles an hour in low Earth atmosphere, where the friction coefficient of that is astounding. It's almost like it'd be like swimming through dirt. It's just the air is so thick, and when you're moving that fast, air density and air friction is problematic. That's the reason why. Case in point, the SR-71, Lockheed YF-12A SR-71, the Blackbird. It is an aircraft comprised entirely of titanium because it gets superheated, even though it's flying at many tens of thousands of feet in altitude and traveling at 3,200 miles an hour. Forgive me. The friction is so high that on some of the colder parts of the engine, it's still like 800, 900 degrees. So, and that's at
Oh, I need to pause on this
3,200
for a
miles an
second
hour.
because here's the thing. When David Mason from UAPX has been recording some of these craft that are moving through our atmosphere, their temperature is negative 60 degrees Fahrenheit. So there's no
Friction.
friction because they're not moving in our atmosphere. They're moving through it. They're passing.
Yeah.
It's warping around them, which is just
And
phenomenal.
our
Yeah.
And
and
no
our aircraft.
combustion engine.
Yeah.
No.
That's yeah. There's no explosion from fuel propelling it.
Yeah.
There's no
And our-
contrails or
lot of
any
heat.
kind of exhaust or anything coming out of these vehicles. So if you ever see a UAP and people say, look, it's a UAP, and look at the stuff, look at the trails that are coming behind it. Well,
Mm-mm.
probably not.
Unless it's trying to impersonate one. But our most advanced airframes can withstand about 18 Gs of force. The space shuttle, when it comes down out of space in a very controlled 15-degree arc back into the atmosphere, it's able to withstand 22 Gs before it comes apart. If these were facing the turbulence that Lou's talking about, we're talking thousands of G forces from the speeds that they're going. So we have nothing in humanity's knowledge base that can come anywhere close to capabilities of these just to
Imagine.
withstand the G forces.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go ahead and continue. He just said imagine. Sorry about that.
Imagine, speeds several times faster. It's almost unimaginable, almost incomprehensible. And the SR-71 is very, very high when it's flying like that with that amount of heat. The lower you go in atmosphere, it just that friction coefficient just goes up and up and up. And we have historical data going back to the 50s where these things, 60s where these things were tracked doing 8, 9, 10,000 miles an hour. So
Oh, hold on there. That's new. We
What's
have data from the 50s and 60s tracking these things going over 10,000 miles per hour. That's a new one, isn't it? Have you heard that one before,
If
Rob?
it's a fact. Yeah.
I don't recall hearing that. No.
No, I don't think any of us have. Yeah, you just have to listen closely because there's these little bits of information that just come out. So let's continue.
I don't think we have seen if you will, a steady increase in their capabilities. The capabilities seem to be the same. What we do see is an increased prevalence of these things being seen. And we don't know if that's a function of simply technology. Everybody now has a cell phone. The world is more densely populated. It could be that there really is an increased prevalence. We don't know yet. There's data to suggest both may be true.
And on that data, the line is now famous. There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the SA. Can you tell us how often there were multiple UAPs reported compared to an individual craft? Was there a pattern recognized or any takeaway from that?
Well, here we go. I like the word
That's a
fleet.
good question.
It just sounds better.
Well, they were flying in a V formation. That we do know. And more of these things were tracked and actually seen with the naked eye.
And if they're flying in a V formation, they're not doing it like birds to go ahead and break to help deal with them going through the atmosphere, literally to go ahead and break the wind. But
Yeah.
what we're kind of hearing here is they're in a V formation, which implies a tactical formation.
Yeah, Delta is a sign of strength. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's interesting because some of the historical videos that have described a triangular vehicle, the problem is when you're looking at a blank sky and you see 3 points of light, there's no reference, there's no depth. And the question is, is there an object in the middle? Is there a solid object in the middle, or is it really three separate, vehicles, so to speak, or points of light? And orientation also means a lot. And so it's difficult. We have seen cases where we thought we saw some material in between, if you will, a triangular craft, and it turned out later that it was actually three separate UAP. And in other cases, it turns out where we think we see three separate UAP, and it's actually part of a single vehicle. And so, I think it's probably too early to tell right now. Is there a greater frequency of
But he has said in the past, we are seeing more of them.
Right.
vehicles
And
flying?
Tom King, you've been doing deep research into Delta sightings, haven't you? Do you think that there's an increased number of these sightings, or do you think, like he said, it's due to everyone having a camera?
But it's not just
It-
Delta. There's
Delta's
triangular
Well, it's like-
formations.
It's like he
Right?
said,
Triangles?
we don't know because there's a mix of data here. There's a MUFON researcher named, I believe his name is David Marler. He wrote a book called UFO Triangles, Estimate of the Situation. I might have that in my library, but if I don't, I'm going to have to rebuy this since I am here now where I'm at. He did a research on 17,000 triangles. That's all his book's about. So 17,000 is a hell of a lot of sightings. And triangles are more rare than orbs and tic tacs and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So that may say historically that they do fly in this formation. From my research, what I'm finding is when they fly from point A to point B, they lock into a triangle and they point their nose down a little bit and they fly like this. And when they hover, what me and Thomas were seeing in some research is the videos then show the triangle sitting down, but then the objects come out and play for a while and move around, but they stay kind of in the formation of the triangle, but they do move around, but in the end they relock in, and when it's time to move, it shifts up and they move as a unit in Delta formation.
Part of the new emergence of Delta formation flight patterns on the East Coast, when they rolled out the new radar systems with the Navy pilots there, the cubes within spheres that they saw that were flying in the V formation, the gimbal was in behind them and they would turn and move, but it would seem to pivot in place and turn differently than the rest of them, how it articulated. So I think maybe the new emergence of the new radar systems would allow for new sightings, and a lot more frequency because of the technologies, that we have now.
But I think it's also based on where you're at, because I've seen them twice here so far last year. Just single orbs that are going from horizon to horizon, just booking across, probably between 500 and 1,000 feet up at the most, probably within, I'd say, 1,000 feet in the direction of where I'm at, maybe two, less than a mile, of course. But they were just seen again several days ago, probably about a couple miles from my house. So at least in the area where I live, we get this propensity of these single. This time they had two of them cruising across the sky. So depending on where and what, there have to be operational corridors that these things are going through, because they're not just out, if you want to call it, out for a Sunday drive. Exactly. That's right, Rob.
Right. And Thomas, are you reporting to more than one agency when you have a sighting?
No, I'm not. I haven't. And I think I might have, but the ones that I had just seen, it was on, I believe it was on Reddit. 2 or 3 days ago, I saw it, and it had just been posted for one of the sightings in the area. And as soon as you see it, you recognize the craft, you recognize the movement of what's going on. So, you've seen it a couple times, you start seeing more, you kind of know what you're seeing.
And make sure you report yours that you had. I know you had a pretty decent sighting. You have a great sighting. You should report it if you haven't. and to more than one agency. I think spreading it out.
Yeah, of course. Great
to
idea.
get
Great idea.
corroboration. Yeah.
So on that note, let's go ahead and continue with this, shall we?
Information, and do they accompany other UAPs? Certainly, that has happened. There's a lot of data that suggests sometimes they fly together. They even can. It looks like some of these things are actually kicked off almost like think of a drone or a UAV coming from a mothership, if you will. I hate to use that term, but from a larger vehicle, a larger craft. I think it's I don't know if there's been any real analysis to make a determination that most UAP incidents involve a fleet of them, right? As we heard, as you're talking about the famous video, look on the ASA, right? I don't know. I do know that there's data on both singular craft and multiple vehicles being seen and interacting with each other to some degree. It goes back. It's interesting. There's some old historical reporting from the.
Now, this is one we've talked about many times, Rob. The sighting that happened in was it Nuremberg, Germany?
Yeah.
From right before the beginning of the Renaissance, during the Middle Ages.
I think it was 1640
1600s, actually. So in Nuremberg, the famous Nuremberg incident in Germany, where
there were two. There was one thing that actually happened in Belgium in 15 something, and there was another one in 16 something, about 100 years later.
A lot of different shaped vehicles, lenticular craft, and cylindrical craft, and triangular craft, little orbs of light. Seem to be interacting with each other, and some even described it that there was some sort of aerial dogfight between vehicles. Obviously, this is centuries before my time, so I certainly can't speak in an articulate manner regarding that incident. But there were a lot of eyewitnesses that discussed that of these vehicles flying in formation, if you will.
So this next one we're going to be getting into, I believe we're right about that point, is are they aware of our presence? And if we can ever get the video that we can actually go ahead and show from Nikki X1, Lou is going to talk about it. We've got video evidence that was taken within the last month of interaction between craft of non-human intelligence and humans. So, can't wait. Yeah, let's go ahead and listen to this one.
You mentioned an increase in sightings. Is that down to us having more cell phones or Navy technologies, military technology improving month on month, maybe week on week? Are they noticing us noticing them more?
One thing on that, military technology has improved, but the latest third generation military grade night goggles and stuff that can see everything still can't see a lot of the craft. You're talking about very highly specialized equipment that available at the consumer level that's starts at $50,000. So there is stuff out there and it's lower resolution, but majority of the equipment we have cannot see these things.
Some of it's passive jamming and some of it's active jamming where we can't see them.
Oh, what happens is when the UAP comes close, the equipment actually goes static and stops working. When they get further away, it comes back online. So some of the stuff we can see it, but when they get close enough, it's that interference from the electromagnetic frequency radiation that just takes all of our electronics out, no matter what.
We are aware that we are now aware. Dave Fravor actually talks about as he goes to engage and cut the gap and try to engage this tic tac. It orientated itself at him, pointed at him, and kept a safe distance from his aircraft and kind of mirrored his maneuvers in order to keep a safe distance. And then, bang, as he starts to close the gap, it then demonstrates that it's not very happy with Dave Fravor, and so it disappears over the horizon. There does seem to be some sort of awareness there. It's not like we're walking in the desert and there's we don't notice the ants on the floor. It definitely seems that they are very well aware of our presence and respond accordingly. People talk about communication, but when I take a treat and I tell my dog to sit and the dog sits, I'm training the dog, but at the same time, the dog is training me. When the dog, whines and wants to go outside, the dog is training me to go open the door because he needs to go to the bathroom. right? So it's communication doesn't have to be verbal. And, one can surmise that, by us doing certain things and it responds accordingly, that's a form of communication. And, we do see that there's a keen interest in our nuclear equities. Um, so anyways, there you have it. I think I think there's definitely an awareness of our presence. That's pretty clear.
Dave Fravors incident.
Okay, so that's one talking about aware of us or presence or communication. Where we have our 24 minutes. So we're coming in. Have you spoken to other pilots? Yeah, he has. Let's get into 2549 where we're going to talk about the
Got
rating.
another super chat coming in.
Oh wow, coming in from Julie Fletcher, 20 pounds. Holy cow! For 5.00. Not sure what that means. Maybe a rating of 5 stars. Thanks, Julie. Appreciate that. Let me go ahead and just kick up the music and just do a quick thanks to this.
I'm going to listen.
Yeah, thank you, Julie Fravor. Coming in from the United Kingdom, Julie Fletcher coming in for a rating of 5.00. I think that's 5 stars. Yes, absolutely. Kim Jellin is confirming that.
Okay,
Appreciate that very much. Rob?
Okay. Come on, Dan, saying something. Hang on.
So I want to thank Julie Fletcher for that wonderful super chat. Absolutely. Let's get back to this great conversation. Glad we could go ahead and have the show early enough to include some of our friends from the United Kingdom. That's why we do it at Saturdays at 3, and it seems to be working. Absolutely. Thank you very much, Julie. Rob, you were saying? You good? Okay. Continue on then, shall we?
It's been well documented, and Commander Fravor talked about it on.
I was going to go to at 25 minutes talking and 49 seconds talking about the shapes of craft, which I think this is something that'll be interesting to Tom King.
That's a good analogy.
You mentioned, interestingly, going back to the past, different shapes of craft, lenticular and such. And excuse the slightly longer question here. Part of the recently declassified but heavily redacted UAP task force report contained a page on the shape of UAP. Tic Tacs seem to have replaced the classic saucer shape in terms of the go-to descriptor that you see online from people these days. However, to your knowledge, are the US military and others still encountering a range of shaped craft that are categorically not adversarial technologies?
That's a good question.
You're asking me two different questions, actually. You're asking me, are they...
I like that. Not adversarial technologies. I guess depends on how we perceive something, whether or not we take it as a threat. Does that sound about right, panel?
Absolutely.
Rob?
But I mean,
well, in the position of the government, they have to perceive until they know it's not a threat. They have to investigate.
I know we're just talking about the general things about shapes and just the looks, because Lou will get into this in a second. So let's.
We don't want our adversaries to know what we think is UAP shapes and what is adversarial shapes.
Right.
So
they orb looks a lot less threatening than some of the battleships we've seen from science fiction. Let's just put it that way.
Still encountering different shapes craft? Yes, absolutely. It's not just Tic Tacs. But the second part of your question is, are they certainly not adversarial technology? What I can say is we think that they're not adversarial technology. You don't know what you don't know. It's highly unlikely that some of these are foreign technology, but as we continue to evolve technologically speaking, we're getting more and more advanced in our capabilities. And so at some point, we may find ourselves in a situation where some of these UAP could absolutely be replicated by a foreign government. I don't think we're there yet, and I think that the general consensus by the intelligence communities that we're not there yet. But at some point, the more we understand and learn about these things, the more we may have the ability to replicate some of their performance.
Hold on a second here. Rob, you've done a lot of research on Lou in the past. Logan Black is saying, I watched Lou talking about what would an alien leave behind. He mentioned the moon. Maybe a monolith. Do you remember that conversation? I don't.
No, he never said anything like that that I'm aware of. I would have remembered it.
Yeah.
And I've
I
seen
do
most.
remember something like that, actually.
Yeah, Logan,
But
let us
no,
know
I'm not.
where and when. It'll be interesting to go ahead and listen to that little nugget of information. If you mention the moon, literally, like, what would an alien leave behind? Literally, like our moon, or is he mentioning something on our moon? Which Buzz
Well, he
Ball.
was questioned. He was questioned by Kurt Jamongal of where would you leave something if you wanted to have a record for millions of years. Kurt had guessed maybe the moon or someplace to store it, and that's where Lou came back and said, potentially human DNA. So it may have been that conversation.
Oh yeah, all that junk DNA that we have may not be junk DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And I think honestly, they call it junk DNA because they just don't know what the hell it is. Maybe the
They
most
found it.
important part of our DNA.
Agree.
Yeah. It could be a part of our DNA that deals with consciousness and everything else. We just don't know. Let's continue.
And your answer, would that be the reason, or one of the reasons that that page is so heavily redacted, is because if the US government show that we know there's this shape, and this shape, and it turns out those are actually Chinese drones, you don't want the Chinese to know that they have that object.
Precisely. You don't ever want to broadcast your vulnerabilities, and you also don't want to broadcast what you know about your enemy. That's very important. That's part of counterintelligence. You don't want to reveal. It's like playing a game of chess. You don't want to tell your enemy what your next move is, and you don't want to tell your enemy what your own pieces are capable of. That's not a very smart way to play chess. So you're absolutely correct. That's certainly one reason to keep things classified.
Any other reasons, if that's one of them, that you could go into?
Yeah, I mean, we could spend here all day talking about why we classify information. Usually,
particularly, I suppose, the shape. Sorry, I should have gave you context there. The actual shape of the objects. Why would that be classified?
There's something called blue force and red force capabilities. Blue force are considered your own technologies. Red force are considered the technologies of your adversaries. We spend billions of dollars each year in research and development trying to keep a competitive advantage over our adversaries. We do have some very sophisticated technologies that I'm certainly not going to go into. And you want to protect those equities. Is it possible in the past that some people have confused UFOs with advanced secret U.S. technology? Well, sure, we know that happened with the B-2 bomber program. When people would report the black flying wing, and also the old wobbly goblin, the the 117, the night fighter. People often look. We even see it right now in the commercial world, right? With Elon Musk and Starlink. People see these chains of satellites. I see them all the time out here in Wyoming, that this chain of satellites 50, 60 long in a string, almost like a string of pearls, and people report that as being UFOs. Because if you've never seen it before, then certainly it's going to be something that's going to be novel, and it's going to pique your interest, and it may seem like an unidentified flying object when in reality it's just a new type of technology. The government wants to protect a lot of those key technologies, not Starlink necessarily, but other technologies that we employ and develop, because we spend a lot of money on it, right? And we don't want an adversary coming in and stealing it, and then having that same advantage on the battle space. So there's all sorts of reasons. Again, I mean, we could spend here probably the next 3 hours if you really wanted to and talk about it. But there's good reason why even the shapes of vehicles may wind up being redacted, because a shape can tell you a lot. Let's look at this little aircraft here for a moment, right? If I were to show you this
There we go.
and compare this to, let's say, the model of a biplane, right? Well, just by looking at the shape of this probably tells you a whole lot, right? You have a delta wing configuration, small control surfaces, so you can assume this is probably going to fly very, very fast. When you look at the intakes are on top of the aircraft, on top of the airframe, not below. So that probably tells you that this is a vehicle that is designed to have a low signature. You can tell a lot by a simple shape. And this is just a little toy, right? So So yeah, there's reasons why you want to keep certain things classified, and shapes can tell you a lot. They can tell you physical characteristics and even performance capabilities, and potentially even something manned or unmanned. So yeah, there you have it.
Great conversation on that. What are your guys' thoughts? I mean, I guess we were just kind of talking about this. It really comes into just understanding that there's, well, potentially tactical reasons why there's shapes. I guess they got rid of everything, but I guess they could have shown something. But I know in the United Kingdom, they have a classification chart of all the different shapes that are out there. But for some reason, they're just being a little cautious these days. What are your thoughts, Rob?
Well, I remember from an earlier interview that he was talking about if our adversaries knew, I think that they are implying that some of our adversaries do have some advanced drones that could emulate looking like some UAP shapes. So they don't want if they are peculiar shapes that our adversaries have, they didn't our intelligence doesn't want them to know that we've differentiated between theirs and UAP. So we wanted to keep that classification edge and not divulge that. That's perfectly reasonable.
Yeah. Oh, quick note just for someone was saying, can someone link that UK chart Thomas just mentioned? I saw that actually on Spaced Out Radio. Nicole Satchich brought that up, and she opened the book and showed the classification charts that are out there from the United Kingdom. It's something we'll look into and see if we can find it.
You can Google it. There's all kinds of charts out there from different nations and organizations. Just Google UAP UFO chart, and it'll pull up a bunch of posters of it of different craft. I think one of them had like 80 different shapes.
But UFOs generally don't have, like he said, they don't have control surfaces. Our craft do. So if we're showing, let's say everybody probably has heard about the new Phoenix drones that are coming out, which are stealth drones. That has a specific shape. Now, if you show that drone, you go, okay, we know what that is. That's a man-made flying object. When we get to the UFOs, they're just generic. They're diamond, they're round, they're tic tacs. Maybe if they show the tic tac with the two little things under it, that's more of a control surface to a degree. But the stuff I've seen, through binoculars was just a disc with the dome on. So if you were to draw that, you just have a generic surface. You don't really give away if that's US, Chinese, or Russian.
Yeah.
That's just a generic object. It's just a piece of cereal, if you will.
Yeah.
Now, if they're showing like a Predator drone and they're showing, who somebody built that, that's man-made. So that's
actually
two different total things.
One of the best images I've seen, I believe it was with night vision gear, of that saucer with a dome on top of it was from Steve Barone from UFOs Over Vegas. He has got a great shot of that. They were coming out of Red Rocks Canyon. There were two of them. One of those things you're going to look for stuff, not planning on it, and you get it. So it is a craft, and it's kind of one of those things where we're looking at it to, any kind of life form seem to go through patterns. That area going through by Steve's house, by Red Rocks Canyon, that is a really great highway, if you want to call it, where they're going. And then down off of Highway 8, remember, Tom, Nikki gave you an opportunity. He wants to go ahead and work with you. If you're up for going out and you have the time to go check out and see what's going on down at the Sentinel rest stop, to the west of Phoenix, I believe, on the way to California on Highway 8. And if you,
it's a couple hours south of here near the Mexican border.
Yeah, it is. But hey,
I've been there. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I do road trips all the time. I just remembered, I got to contradict myself now. Now, all of them are generic. Right before the Roswell crash, somebody here in Phoenix snapped a photo of a UFO flying over, and there's definitely control surfaces on this thing. You can Google it. It was in the newspaper here. And I think testers made a model of it. And it was a specific looking UFO. I don't remember the exact shape. Batman kind of comes to mind as some kind of craft like that. But it wasn't your stereotypical flying saucer. So if you were to get a really good model of that, then it would tell us, oh, yeah, we know that. And the Russians could go, yep, one of those crashed over here, too. So maybe Lou doesn't want to go into say, in some cases, UFOs did have control surfaces. And if we show that, the Russians know we got the damn thing, or we at least have good intelligence on that model.
Right. And another potential is like if we did say, hey, we know that X is from Y and we showed that shape, that would also give away our hand on how we're acquiring information and our sources. And so obviously we don't want to give away our hand on how we're sourcing material.
Yeah,
Right.
I would say basically we know the shape because we got our hands on one of these. Not that we have good photos and intelligence, that we're basically got our hands on one and we're back engineering it. Now, if they have one of those, they can go, yeah, we caught one of those things too, or one of them crashed. Every huge nation out there, our country probably has a couple of these buried, historically crashed. I mean, we can't go to another planet without losing, a few of them. We're not perfect. I don't think anybody is.
Right.
Okay, who wants to time him out? I've taken away his privileges as a moderator, so it's now open game, my friends. Who's going to get the point? Took care of it. Gotta have fun. Hey, I can go ahead and do it, but I would rather leave that to the audience and my wrench army. Sometimes you have to think, oh, there we go. Lazarus Project gets the point.
Just Needs Sleep needs to be de-wrenched as well.
Just Needs Sleep. Is he around?
I'm not putting up any more of this. Innocent lives are being taken in Ukraine and it's just war propaganda. No, I'm not going to put up with this.
Yeah, hold on. I'll take care of that one.
He's a little tired of lies being fed to Americans
Time out
about
or
Ukraine.
hide. Your choice.
Just get rid of him.
Okay. Thanks, Justin. Oh Jesus. Oh well. Sometimes you have to do stuff.
And Lou did mention something about working on them. Like, we're working on them and they're working on them. Like, everybody's, like, all the big, the only real players in this is US, China, and Russia. I don't think France is reverse engineering UFOs. But it seems like the three of these big nations that are basically, nuclear superpowers are doing it.
Didn't we just this year find out that they're detectable via microwaves or via the expulsion of microwaves? Isn't that new information? So, I mean...
Well, electromagnetic frequency radiation, going ahead and detecting it, yeah, that's one of the things we can do. But it's also by RF signals that we're hearing, because they're all in that band of going from visible light where we're at, off to the left, depending on how you're looking at it, towards infrared, long wave infrared, coming into microwave, and then radio frequencies. So they're all within that range, not quite in the range over to UV and toward X-rays, which seems to be more stuff from natural occurrences like gamma rays, suns, etc. The gamma rays is over there too.
Awesome.
Absolutely. All right, let's continue on with this, shall we? And by the way, don't take your news media for what's going on anywhere and just listen to it and believe it, because all of your news media has got a spin. It has an angle to it. Do your due diligence. Don't rely on mass media to tell you what's going on. You want to see what's going on over in Ukraine and different areas? Go spend a couple days on Reddit. Watch the videos coming out of Ukraine from soldiers on both sides of the fence. And if you really want to know and from citizens and a bunch of other stuff, you want to get an idea what's really going on over there, don't listen to a babbling idiot who can't say words properly. Don't go ahead and listen to the mainstream media. Go do the research and take it for yourself. But you can't blame what's coming on the mainstream media and believe, oh, this is where it's exactly at. I just had to go ahead and throw that in.
Tim McMillan is doing some excellent war coverage now on Twitter as well.
Yes.
So you can catch that.
Absolutely.
He's been highly instrumental in advancing disclosure.
Yeah.
It's a proponent for that too.
Yeah.
So I get my news from all over the world.
Absolutely.
I've got friends in that region too. I changed my browser to European, wherever. I sample from all over the planet.
Hey, even sometimes you'll get news from Al Jazeera. that's actually cutting through the shit and telling you kind of where things are. You have to look at all the agencies all over the place. Just don't rely on ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, Fox, MSN, MSDNC, all of them.
I've got a friend in Moscow that feeds me reports, and he's disgusted with Putin and the majority of Russian citizens because he said they're buying into it and they're okay with it from Mother Russia. And he said, they deserve the world to get.
As we kill our audience here talking about politics. Let's
Lou, on some interviews you mentioned China was potentially going to attempt to raise the UAP issue within the UN. Is that something that is still progressing that you can speak about?
Well, they did. They did. It was called the Five Continents Initiative, and they were behind that. And it did not go, I think, as planned. I think people became very wise very quickly as to you don't want one nation controlling the narrative, and that includes the United States.
Yeah.
This is something that impacts everyone.
Quick thing from Brandy. She reminded us here really quick. Sorry about this. If you're watching this broadcast, you're enjoying it. You're hanging out. Do us a favor, hit that thumbs up. We have 106 people in the watching the show right now, 107 with only 55 thumbs up. That helps us deal with the YouTube algorithm and share our content with more and more people. We appreciate that. And if you're new to the show, do us a favor. I can't reach down and hit that subscribe button for you, but if you can, we'd love to have you on a regular basis. And if you're a regular subscriber, do us a favor, hit that bell. Make sure that you're set up for all notifications. We won't bug you too much.
In this topic from a governmental perspective. And this is why we've tried to what I've said before, democratize the conversation. The problem for the last 70 years is that we haven't democratized the conversation. It's been held in small enclaves.
Oh, there we go again. The nugget pointing back to Roswell, 70 years that we haven't had the information, right? Sometimes he says 75, but 70, you get the idea.
Yeah.
Of organizations and institutions and governments, and that hasn't been very helpful towards transparency. So we are trying to democratize the conversation, and I think the United Nations is certainly someplace that would be very good to have this conversation on an international level. Furthermore, there's efforts we see with Italy right now, and the small Republic of San Marino, by the way, the longest standing republic in the entire world since the 1300s. I had the honor and privilege of going there and speaking to some members of the government of San Marino, and maybe having a small enclave like that would be great to have an annual UN meeting on this topic. There was an initiative called the Titan. Titan is the name of the mountain there in San Marino, and Titan was chosen as a name to perhaps try and get the rest of the world on board with having a summit, if you will, the international summit on the UAP topic, hosted there by San Marino. San Marino is a neutral country. They have it even during the World War II. It's a bit of a Switzerland, and there seems to be some interest, and I for one think it's a great idea. So I think international involvement is critical. I don't think that China should be leading the effort, just like I don't think U.S. should be leading the effort. I'm not trying to offend anybody who is from China. What I'm simply saying is that one country.
Remember back in 1978, they did try to go ahead and bring the UFO situation to bring the UFO situation to the United Nations, but it was shut down by the United Kingdom, and they voted to silence it. And this was called, I believe, the Grenada Initiative that they're trying to bring out. So it's a interesting situation to say the least. Let me take care of a cupcake here.
Should own the narrative or control the narrative.
Lou, I'm going to move on to discuss the present. So we've covered the past there quite well, I think, and appreciate the answers. Of course, I'm going to discuss Gary Reid. However, I would point people to Ryan Robbins. If you search UFO Jesus on YouTube, done a 37-minute interview which dropped on the 22nd of April, which covers that situation in quite a lot of detail and covers it quite well, Lou. And I'll put the links for that in the description. However, I do want to know, you stated on that interview that Gary Reid made progress on the UAP topic difficult. is the road now clearer for others who are on the side of progress within the government to come forward? Or is this a Hydra type situation where you cut off one head and two more will take its place?
No, I think it certainly made it easier. The problem is that in the government, there's still elements that don't appreciate the topic. They consider this issue of UAP as an issue of air clutter and space trash, space junk. And, with the hopes of, well, if we can identify more air clutter and space junk, then we can, put this to bed and UFOs are not real. That's not the case. UFOs represent breakaway technology. UFOs, UAP, it represents breakaway technology. It's not a matter of air trash. Yes, we have air trash out there, and we have clutter, and there's laws that require U.S. air domain awareness, but those laws have been around forever. I mean, they've been around for a long, long time, especially after 9/11. There was really an increased emphasis on trying to figure out what's in our airspace. But don't make the mistake of lumping UAP, which represents something completely different, as an air clutter issue or an air trash issue. That's a mistake. And so, trying to have that discussion with bureaucrats who just don't get it, right? And they want this monkey off their back, and they want to answer Congress and scratch that itch so they can move on to do other things.
With him saying that right there, let's jump a little bit forward in the interview to the point where Lou starts talking about the future of what could the UAP landscape look at in about 5 years. So that's about 52 minutes in. Let's jump to that. Here we go. 52:23. There we go.
With what we know, and they're not necessarily, the same.
Lou, moving on to the future, I've got a couple of questions here. You've just mentioned the come back in 5 years comment. You've made that before. What could the landscape of this conversation look like realistically with the progress being made now and looking at that potential growth or accelerated progress? What could it look like?
Wow. Well, let me answer that by saying I am extremely hopeful for this next generation. It is this next generation that is going to inherit this topic, and hopefully not make the same mistakes my generation made regarding this topic. I think most of the answers are going to be within the next 20 years. That a lot of the answers we're looking for, we may have answered in the next 20.
Oh boy. This is the part, Tom King, you brought up about this yesterday and said,
Yeah.
this ain't going to be a 5-year race. It's going to be 20 years.
Not 20 years.
Oh, Jesus. I'll be
And you
freaking
were like,
70.
no. And I'm like, damn, he said it. And then he said 40. Keep playing. He's going to go to 40.
Oh, my God.
He did say he likes to under promise and over deliver. So let's hope that that's the outer limits of his expectations on that, and that maybe we can cut it in half with a little optimism.
Yeah.
I was first on here, I mentioned we're going to have to wait a while because UAPX is coming up next year.
Yeah.
Galileo will take a couple of years to get up and running. I'm a little doing mini Arizona stuff. It's going to take some years.
Yeah, quick thing. Tom Whitmore says it looks like he's reading the answer. I don't think that would be something he'd have to look down and look for an answer on.
Hey, school's coming out next month.
Trying to ask him to predict the future, though.
Yeah.
Like, where are we going to be in 5 years? We don't know.
Yeah.
And hey, guys, I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but just so briefly, if we could just back up to what he had just been talking about, with Gary Reed kind of obviously reallocating funds within his department, and Lou finding that frustration and block to his work. Do you think that demonstrated Reed's attempt to cover something up? How else do you think those funds were spent? And do you think that there was actually a bigger narrative that he was trying to cover up by this obvious demonstration of allegations?
If I could answer this one really quick, if anything, that's why the initial UAP task force only had a couple people working on it part-time, because the funding that should have been there wasn't there. But that's why in the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2022, that's signed into law, they get unlimited funding for whatever they need. And let's say it's somewhere between, I don't know, 5 million and somewhere between 5 and 50, if not more, because remember, they're operationalizing. They need to have teams of people who can be dispatched anywhere on an instant to go ahead and observe and investigate and understand what's going on, the phenomena anywhere in the country, if not further. It's a lot bigger than what they've had in the past, and that's why Gary Reed is no longer in that position.
The $10 million was in 2012, and it was inadvertently allocated to a different department because Reed at that time didn't know that there was that ATIP was existed, and they couldn't come out right and say what that money was earmarked for the project. So the congressman that helped get the funds directed to them, or earmarked for them, they couldn't come out and say, "Hey, we have a UAP program. We're studying UFOs." So it inadvertently got used somewhere else because they couldn't come out and acknowledge that. So that wasn't Reed's blocking that shot on that instance.
Yeah.
And do you think that this is just the first domino to fall in the chain of events that will explain why now in the events in government? And I know that the clock is ticking. We got 3 minutes.
Oh, we got longer than 3 minutes. So
The why now
Okay.
what?
Well, the why now to the events that we're seeing take place with disclosure and the people in power that were kind of blocking that transparency are falling.
Yeah, this is all from the 2017 when Lou didn't leak ATIP's existence. Somebody leaked his resignation letter, and then it became known. That's where the New York Times article came out. They were going to run the article with or without his input. So they chose to be part of it and put the record straight as much as they could speak on that wasn't classified, and breaking their NDAs. So, and then this is a progression we're seeing as a direct result of him having to resign and all the fallout from it. Congress learning what they did.
Is that part of the Podesta email leaks with Tom DeLonge potentially talking about Lou?
And it was leaked in 2017 with his resignation. I think that was after Podesta.
Sure. But let's continue on with this point if we could.
I think it's going to be up to this next generation to solve some of these big questions. I think we can hopefully, first of all, know what our government has known for the last 70 years about this topic, first and foremost, before we can
the last 70 years, what our government has known about this topic.
Move forward. We first need to get a handle on what we already know. And that's going to be a very difficult task because there's a lot of interest and equities at stake. There's a lot of baggage.
Yeah. It's a matter of being able to handle that baggage and bring it out without everybody freaking out. But we can't wait for all those people to die to be able to bring out that baggage.
And that baggage needs to be sorted out and addressed. So my hope is that in the next 20 years, we will have, I guess in the future, right, that we know more about the past. We can have a definitive understanding of who was involved in what projects and what insight was gained as a result of those efforts. If we can achieve that in the next 20 years, then I think the following 20 years after that, we can start maybe getting answers to some of the big questions, right, that everybody wants to know. Where are they from?
Oh, son of a bitch. There you go, Tom, the next 20 years. But yeah, that needs to be condensed down, I think, because every time they look at something and say, look, global warming is going on, all these things are going to be happening in hundreds of years, and it comes out a couple years later, well, we're already there and it's even worse. So,
well, there's two things I've seen the government, both sides work together on. That's legalizing pot and UAPs. And the government's slowly trying to legalize weed, but it's taking them forever. So put pot and weed on this kind of the same
legalize
train.
weed so everybody can smoke it and see UFOs.
Weed and then UFOs, and then they'll say if they didn't legalize weed, we would have never seen those UFOs.
Exactly.
I think weed is going to come before they talk about aliens in Roswell. So that's a slow damn train the government works.
Yeah, but you know what? If that's where Lou seeing it can kind of go, that's where we have to make noise in front of our representatives, in front of our senators, and we, hell no, 20 years won't go. We want to know today, and just something where we're going to get out there, and we need to start making some noise. Lou's making some great noise on his own, but this is where we need to come together as a community, whether it's enthusiasts or we have people who are veterans or all involved with this. This is something where we all need to come together. And I want to thank UK Interdimensional Arrivals Stargate number 1, David. Thank you, David, for that wonderful
Yeah.
super chat. Let's go ahead and just
Cool Mandela.
yeah, absolutely. If I can find this, let's kick it up. Yes, thank you, UK Interdimensional Arrivals. Stargate number 1, David. Yes, thank you. But more importantly, thank you to everybody in the United Kingdom who's been kicking off all these super chats. I don't want to go ahead and bore you with this music too much, but let's go ahead and, well, stop acting like chickens and continue this, shall we?
Personally speaking, I could be wrong, but that's my perspective.
I'm going to ask you a question just because you mentioned there who could they be, where could they be from, etc. And Dan might laugh at this because I called him when I thought about this on the bus home from work the other day, and I very badly elaborated to him what I wanted to ask. If we as a species, Lou, discovered the technology to travel in different dimensions, space or time, we land upon a craft and we can zip into, say, a different dimension, like you've talked about before. There's potentially a shadow biome, or maybe they're here but not here directly. How would we as a species, do you think, use that technology? Would we behave in a similar way to how these others may be behaving?
Mother Nature, she's really clever. She's had a long time to figure out biology. And there may be a reason why we don't have the answers yet that we're seeking. Maybe we're just simply as a species not ready for it, right? Perhaps we're not ready for nuclear technology. Look of the angst that it's causing right now in the Ukraine. And now you have, uh, uh, two countries that are fighting each other, potentially putting the entire world at the brink of war, right? And annihilating all living species on this planet. Um, are we really ready for that technology as a species? I don't know. Are we giving a loaded handgun to a child if we were to have this type of technology? I think some people are probably ready for it and could be trusted with it, but there's a whole lot of people that I don't think can be. We have rogue nations out there all the time. And look, I'm a patriot to my country, but I'm gonna tell you, there's only been one country so far in the last century that's ever used an atomic technology against other human beings, and that was my country in World War II. Now, arguably, it may have saved many more lives, but we, the moment we discovered that technology, we use it against our fellow man, and that's problematic because that's human nature. That's not just an American thing. It's not just.
And that's why that's why Lou is doing what he's doing, because we need to pull the phenomena, the what's going on with UAP, UFOs, whatever you want to call it, pull it out of as much as we have to, out of the clutches of the DOD, because that's exactly why they're trying to keep it all for themselves. It's all about the weapons. It's all about the technology to use the weapons to create war machines to kill other man. And that's the most important things that we can look at anything. That's what Lou's mission is about. It's about pulling that out, bringing in the scientists, bringing in the academics, bringing in the general public on this, because without it, for 75 years, they've been trying to figure this out and use it for machines and for technology to kill, not for power generation, not for anything. It's, make no mistake, just like the robots we're seeing from Boston Dynamics. It's not about things to help humans. It's about stuff to frickin' kill humans.
Russian or a Chinese thing. That's
Rob?
I was just gonna say, I'd like to think that, like we've had with our mutual assured destruction, that we would have it for brinkmanship, to try and keep from having to use it to kill people, to have the ability, but not actually go through and use it.
Yeah.
It's what I hope for.
Absolutely.
That's human nature. You give one monkey a stone and you give another monkey a club. Well, guess what? They're going to use it against each other because that's what we do. Species tend to be violent, unfortunately, because it's part of our evolution for survival and the competition for resources. It's innate. It's part of our DNA. Plants even do it. They compete for resources. Humans do it. Every animal on this planet. It's almost an unwritten rule of survival, right? So are we prepared for some sort of technology that now we can export our tendencies, perhaps across the cosmos?
Oh God, that's the last thing we would want, because hate to say it, humanity has got some decent things about it, but humanity, not just, let's get away from humanity, governments, the ones that are in control, that pull the purse strings and everyone, those are the ones we have to worry about. And if those are the ones that have the ability to put us against the cosmos, that's going to be a big problem. And I can see why they would want to keep us out of the role, because look at what we've done. Look what we're doing in Ukraine. Look what we've done to the American Indians. Look what we've done to the Jews. Look what we've done to the people in Bosnia, all over the world, in China today. Yeah, scary stuff.
We
Power
cannot get
corrupts.
along. Yeah.
Power corrupts, and absolutely power corrupts, absolutely. So like Gary Reed, in his time in the military, they said that he's a pretty stand-up guy. But after he came into the Pentagon and kept getting promoted, and he kept getting more and more inefficient and lost his way. It's just another example of how people that start out with good intentions fall off the rails when they get too much power.
And that's why we have the ability to connect with these through consciousness. And yes, getting too close may not be a good thing, but consciousness is all around us. And if we can connect and we can figure out what's going on, it's about enlightening humanity, not just enlightening the government. And I think hopefully with the ET's own agenda of moving things forward, hopefully that's what it's about, enlightening all of us.
Would that even be wise, knowing how we behave with each other? Are we really prepared to be part of if there is some sort of cosmic community, so to speak? Are we really even prepared to interact with that? I'm not so sure that we are. But I do also think that the truth is important. I think we must tell the truth. I think our species is prepared for the reality that we're not alone. Now, I'm not saying we're necessarily prepared to go out there and engage, but the mere fact that we're not alone is, I think, that's not a fact that should be classified or kept secret from citizens of the world.
Bingo. There you go.
He just said we're not alone. So we're not alone with who or what?
What exactly?
That was a big reveal right there.
Oh, yeah.
It should not be kept secret from the world.
Yeah. That's a good quote to have.
Yeah.
Dang, dang, dang. Johnny from the UK. Thanks, Johnny from the UK, for that super chat. Yeah. Thanks for picking up on that one, Tom. Another little reveal. It's those little bits we have to start listening into.
I also think it might help us maybe, just maybe, treat each other a little better if we know that there's something bigger out there, something that is now touchable, if you will. Can we learn from that? Can we learn the fact that, hey, we don't have to destroy ourselves to evolve. We don't have to beat each other up with a club or a stone. We can work together and maybe use the club and the stone as a tool and to the benefit of the species.
Let me ask, just to follow that on slightly, and hopefully I word this appropriately. Say a group of responsible individuals, I'm going to say yourself and Christopher Mellon, are given this technology, okay? Would you behave the same way observing another intelligent species on their planet? Would you stay at a great height? Would you observe their navy from a distance?
Yeah.
Do you appreciate how these objects appear to behave, and do you think we would do exactly the same?
Well, we do now, don't we? When we fly over the Serengeti in Africa with a helicopter, looking at the migratory patterns of wildebeest, right? We stay a safe distance. We fly over the herd, probably scare the hell out of them when we're flying. Sometimes we may decide to dart one and pull some blood samples to
Great example I've been using, except I was using rhinos.
To see,
But, if we are darting us and checking some stuff out to make sure we're doing all right to understand the species, well, considering everything humans do, to be expected. Oh, look, they're doing all this stuff. We should do it too to them.
The health of the herd and whatnot, the reproductive health. And then, we
Gary mentioned the reproductive health. Ding, ding, ding. Another one he's mentioned on this.
fly away. And of course, the wildebeest wakes up, a couple hours later with, a sore butt. Like, what the hell was that? We do that now.
That's not from checking reproductive health, I tell you.
Do it in the deep oceans. That's kind of what science does, isn't it? We observe. Science is the art of observation and understanding. And in order to understand, you have to observe. And I think that's precisely probably what we would do anyways, whether it's me or Chris or not. I think we would do that as a species. We would continue doing what we do now with our own with even our own species, right? So
interesting. Now, on that note, let's jump forward to a little bit where he's talking about Gary Nolan on the theories of everything in a new organization to vet data. So let's bring that across to a minute 6 in 6:10.
Is coming on the podcast in a few weeks. I'm honoured with that. He doesn't do too many interviews. He's a very, very busy man. He mentioned on Cut Dry Mungo Theories of Everything, which happened, that came out just last week. We need an organisation we can turn to who can vet the data. I'm involved with Lue Elizondo and others trying to set that up. Is that something you can elaborate on and speak on that organisation?
I mean, you said it yourself. Gary's an incredible human being. I mean, really, really impressive. It's funny because I went to school to be for microbiology, immunology, and parasitology, and got my minors in the science and mathematics fields. And then you meet someone like Gary, who's actually been nominated for the Nobel Prize in immunology. It's pretty incredible. Having him on board is a blessing. He has been very helpful in the past in this effort and this endeavor. He's precisely the type of skill set that we need. And yes, I am working with Gary Nolan and others, by the way, to create advisory boards, academic advisory boards, if you will, or think tanks and scientific think tanks that can, do a lot of the heavy lifting, right? Have the conversation in a way that is meaningful, that's informative, and helps shed some light on this topic. And all I can say is I'm blessed that Gary's part of the team. We have other very, very smart people as well that are part of the team. They haven't given me permission to share their names, so I won't yet. But I think people will be really impressed when they finally see these endeavors finalized and come to fruition. People will be surprised to see the type of caliber of individuals that are on these boards. Look, I'll be the first one to say I have deliberately taken myself out of other than setting it up any role of being on these boards because I don't have the qualifications.
So again, Lou's being the kingmaker. He's connecting people, bringing together the right people, getting them on their mission, and then letting them go off. And it's almost what he's trying to do with what he's been doing on social media, getting stuff going, getting people talking about it, making people aware, getting the right people in place to go ahead and let those different areas go ahead and continue. Your thoughts, Tim?
More of a question with Lou's background. I was just wondering because he had mentioned his background there. Why do you suppose he got into the position that he was in with that as his area of interest?
When he was recruited into ATIP,
Yes, sir.
to help transition OSAP into to downsize it into being ATIP from the DIA project into a DoD project at the mainstream, and his expertise was in counterintelligence. So setting up the framework for the securities of how to transition that, but also his abilities with all aerospace technologies on the planet that came to bear as well. So he
Right,
knew
I
what
guess.
all was in existence to know what wasn't in the human arsenal. So
More
he was.
specifically, his training, right? As Julie Farrell is saying in parasitology and immunology.
I don't know if that came to bear, but it is a curious thought, because some of the other people that were brought into ATIP and others had doctorates in immunology and microbiology. So
how do you think that kind of happened? Do you think that
well,
is part of the recipe at looking at alien life?
it's just speculation on my part, but he said, Lou said that we only see 5% of the known universe, that we can only see one magnitude up and one magnitude below us. And he did say it could be interdimensional, or it could be on a scale, down, below our scale. So you're talking microscopic then.
Right.
It's entirely possible. If there's an entity that can be non-physical, why couldn't it be the size of a mustard seed or something, or
Right.
smaller?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Let's
Awesome. Thank you.
let's
for
jump ahead
talking
at
on
this
that.
point. We're going to jump ahead to one of the questions coming in from Janine. Minute 24, 25. Let's get there. There we go. This is a good question coming in. You guys are going to like this one, I think. Let's listen to this one.
But that's how oftentimes it works.
Question from Jean. Is there one aspect of the phenomenon that Lou finds to be extremely concerning or frightening?
I thought this would be a good one.
Wow, Gene.
That's a really good question.
I think the most frightening aspect of the phenomenon really doesn't concern the phenomenon. It involves our own human nature and how we turn against each other when faced with potentially information that is existential. We're a fragile species emotionally, and anytime you challenge someone's beliefs or the way that they view the universe, the very, very first reaction is to fight, and it's disbelief. No, I'm not wrong. You're wrong.
Yeah. And that's just one thing that I've said. We have a lot of beliefs, meaning things we believe in that we cannot necessarily prove. So there
Right.
may be things that are going to come along that are going to help to clarify and bring some enlightenment to some of our beliefs or understandings. But that's okay, because you have a civilization that's 1,000,000 years older and they've been around, they know a bunch of stuff. And if they help us clarify some of the stuff, there's nothing wrong with that. It's something
Right.
that you have to look at it. You can look at it as a negative, but I like to look at things as a positive.
Right. And I can appreciate Lou's answer here. Completely well thought out, completely
Yeah.
good answer coming from a good place. However, it kind of imports the reality that Lou is probably not necessarily an experiencer, or
Oh,
if he
no.
is, he's not. Perhaps he's not explaining it from an experiencer
Well,
perspective,
he's not
because there are aspects of this that are definitely,
he's not
potentially scary if you've come face to face
he's
with it.
not explaining anything with regards to the phenomena itself. Yes, I agree with Tom Whitmore. He dodged the question. He's came up with something else. You asked me this here. Well, I'll tell you about how we're kind of seeing some of the stuff and knowing how humanity is. It's good to kind of talk about that. But yeah, we saw that one picture we brought up last night, and no, that's not something pretty that we want to go ahead and bring around, because it's
Right.
not the, sometimes looks can be deceiving. An ET could look at us and be like, oh my God, what the hell are those things? And we could end up being the same.
Right. And he's had some other descriptive words of the concept of this interaction. and it hasn't been super positive, I think. So I can tell this is a tender subject from him. But again,
Yeah.
I'd like to underscore the fact that if you ask the same question to an experiencer, perhaps they would answer with something more definitive.
Jim,
Right.
he might be an experiencer,
He's
but
just not
No,
sharing.
no. I believe
if
he
brings
said.
that
Fear
up,
aspect.
I believe
that's
he has
ammo
said
for the
he
hater.
he has experienced things in the past, and he said that in other places.
Perhaps he's just not relaying the fear aspect of his experience.
Or I
then.
think, as Tom Whitmore says at the top of the screen, he kind of dodged the question
He
because
said he didn't
he
wanna
was just
muddy
like,
the
"How in the
waters.
heck am I going to answer this one?" Let's hear the rest of it, though.
He
You're
said
right,
he didn't
Rob.
want to muddy the waters with his personal experiences. He wanted to keep
Yeah.
it objective with his research.
Right.
Good
Yeah.
point.
And don't scare the masses. Don't scare the kid before they get the shot.
Yeah.
And we have a hard time really changing our views, even in the face of new evidence. We would rather reject the evidence in favor of our own preconceived opinions.
And that's what goes
Good
on
point,
with
Lyndon.
history, Rob, doesn't it?
Yeah.
They have their preconceived opinions of where things are, and they get evidence that comes along and actually shows it. Here's this technology, here's this stuff. But it's because it's not convenient for the pre-established timelines and what they believe. They throw it off to the side and they discount it, don't they, Rob?
Yeah, too often, like with what we see with the ancient history research that they call alternative, just like they call this, UAP and UFO research fringe science. It's not. It's solid academic research, and we apply the scientific method for a reason, because there is so much of a stigma against it that we have to be bringing facts to bear every opportunity we get, because there's so much scrutiny and bias, against it in stigma. So
Yeah.
we have to use facts to bear with that, and try and dispel the myths that are behind it.
Yeah. All right, let's continue on this one. Great
I
conversation
agree with you,
going on.
Linda.
A lot of
Thanks for
strong
that.
conversations in the chat. Yes, you do, Logan Black.
And that's problematic because real science doesn't work that way. Real science is about constant evaluation and reevaluation of your hypothesis, and testing those hypotheses, and being your own worst critic, because that's how you find flaws in theories, and you have to be willing to find flaws in your own theories. You have to look in the mirror, and you have to be able to do that. And this topic is, it's so mysterious, and it has a potential for our species in such a profound way that there's a lot of people who just can't even conceive it. They'd rather spend their time, watching Keeping Up with the Kardashians. And again, nothing wrong with that, but when given a choice, do you want to have a conversation about potentially something that is relevant to our entire species and our existence? A lot of people, going back to the old cliche of the Matrix movie, they they'll go for that blue pill every time. They think they want the red pill, but in reality, they don't. They want the blue pill. They want to remain comfortable in the little shiny box that they've created for themselves, with limitations and boundaries. And okay, this is where I am. This is who I am, and this is where I fit. People are very uncomfortable with the unknown. It's just the way we are as a species. We don't like the unknown, and that's why governments and religions and institutions are so important, because we expect them to have answers for us, and when they don't, it makes us very uncomfortable. And this is a topic where there's a lot more questions than there are answers right now, and it makes a lot of people uncomfortable. So they tend to focus on other things, I guess. And by the way, that's not a bad thing. It's not. I'm not saying this to try to make anyone feel terrible, or make anybody feel bad for not considering this topic a serious topic. It's just the way we are as a species. We don't like unanswered questions, and it's probably an evolutionary thing. Probably goes back to the our instinct of fight or flight, because something that is unknown, something that we don't recognize, could be a potential threat, and therefore we're afraid of it, right? Or we fight it, one of the two. And so yeah, there you have it. I think that's probably the biggest fear I have regarding this topic. Isn't the topic itself, it's our reaction to the topic.
And that's probably now that we actually have the opportunity to go ahead and bring things forward, this is kind of where we have this situation where we can actually start educating others. And that's what it's about. It's about the education of a civilization on what's going on because they've been lied to for the last 70 to 75 years. And it's about bringing
Right.
out the truth and the understanding in ways that aren't going to go ahead and destroy our cultures, destroy our religions, and destroy our way of life that we've got going on here today. Does that make sense, Rob?
Right.
hmm
And it's not really a red or blue pill topic, or black and white for that matter. Just because you think something one day, you can be shown new evidence that'll
Yep.
change your mind, and you can
I,
reevaluate and reestablish where your
I think
foundation
what
of
he
thinking
meant.
is.
I think what he meant by that was that a lot of people have preconceived notions and expectations of what the phenomena will manifest as. And when they find out, if they find out that that does not meet their expectations or far exceeds them, that they may have buyer's remorse and that wish that they didn't pursue it so much.
Oh man.
Because we really don't know the totality of
Yeah.
what we're experiencing. The grays and things like that could be an artifact of something much more alien to us, but it's presenting that as a way for us to not be completely terrified as an object that we can remotely, in our societal expectations, relate to, that doesn't completely abject terrify us, and they could be synthesized beings that are just merely tools, drones, so to speak.
Right.
We don't
And
know.
another example is how in the UK, in the I believe late 50s, in Yorkshire, somebody had an experience that they described with a craft and little green beings, and their full description was that it was fairies, and that
Yeah.
they went up into the fairies' craft. But it wasn't fairies at all. It was absolutely, in today's language, an ET experience. But
Well, it
um,
was fairies to them, and it was, there was been religious art, occurrences. They were the real deal. That wasn't misinterpretations. It was what was meant for them to see at the time. Just like in the
right,
early, like around 1900, there were dirigibles landing in the United States with guys saying they were from a place like France. The accents, the handlebar mustaches. We just don't know the totality of what we're dealing with. You know, Jack Vallee states the entire spectrum of religion, cryptids, the Fey people, all that, and the aliens. It's all to him the same, different manifestations of the same project. Person or persons or whatever running the projector. The puppet master or the Wizard of Oz. They don't know what it is, but it
that's
seems
a
to
great
all fit
point.
in that same spectrum.
And you have Adrian in your audience. I'm not sure if he's still there, but Adrian had an experience with something that was very different. And I've even asked Lou this question, whether potentially the shadow being was somewhere in the realm of alien, because it's just another, um, you know, portion of this realm of unknown. Am I kind of barking up the wrong tree, or do you think that this could all be grouped together in some way?
It could. Yeah, I think they're all artifacts of the same. I don't think it's one monolith that we're dealing with. Jacques Vallée doesn't know. It's all in the same spectrum of. We've been veiled from all of it for about 5,000 years now. That before that, there were the gods among men that were there, that were building the megaliths, that were in these temples being worshipped as gods that had these powers, but they were being given those technologies and things probably by higher beings from there with proxy wars and power plays. And then, there were fights for supremacy back then than I imagine there are now. It's a very deep mystery.
Right.
If
Yeah.
if we're at a point where they won't even tell us the shape of a UAP, and we're talking etch a sketch type stuff, right? Now imagine they're not going to tell us what any of the shapes of the things are inside of that ship, right? Because
Right.
I don't know about you, everybody's different. I would be a little more scared if they came out and said the grays are out there. I think people might be more scared if they said one of the shapes looks just like us and we can't tell us from them. They have DNA so similar that they could be living on this planet, go get a blood check, and it would all come back normal and not send off any red flags. That'd make people paranoid as hell. That
Yeah,
we
if you
have
look at
these people intermixed on this planet, and for how goddamn long?
if you
Hundreds
look
of
at
Do they
years?
the
even know?
ancient Akkadian
Yeah.
sculptures and statuary and all that stuff, they look just like us, but on steroids. They were these huge, powerful men like Gilgamesh and all that. That's shown holding a lion. the demigods of the Norse gods and the like Hercules and all them. These could have been real beings that were that may have been. They may not have been immortal, but they had unnaturally long lives and and high capabilities. They may have been enhanced
Yeah.
to be able to do that.
And the thing is, look in the mirror, everybody, and you may be looking at an alien. We could,
I was just going to say
we
that.
could be the missing link could not be something on this planet or something that is here, but it's not us. It wasn't just evolution. Something made that big jump, and there's a lot of old stories talking about this stuff. The things that have happened. We've got the stuff from the Sumerians showing them actually looking like they're manipulating DNA. There's stories that are out there that go back, but they don't, they haven't rise to that level of precedence or believability, just because we have so much baggage in history of all these other stories and beliefs that are there that go against the facts and the information that's coming forward from the different times. So it's just a matter of finding the balance going between the things to keep, to bring us that understanding. And if we can get that, it may make things a little bit easier to take.
And do you think that that generation could potentially even not know that they're part of that?
I imagine the science shows, and a lot of scientists are coming on board with this, that we were created beings, and maybe probably all organic life, and it probably didn't originate on this planet. So in essence, we were all created beings at one point in time, but by who or what, we don't know.
Right.
Do you think if that was part of the plan, and this is purely hypothetical, that there could be an activation that was installed somewhere in our DNA where it can be activated potentially?
There's environmental triggers that can set evolutionary changes, adaptation species, I should say.
Yeah.
Where a species, when it's put under a certain environment, it'll have genetic changes to fit the new environment that it enters into, and latent genetics become
so there's pre-existing. I think what Rob is saying, there's pre-existing programming, pre-existing, if you want to call it, stuff there that if we're put in different situations, we'll be able to evolve in those particular directions.
Yeah, dominant traits emerge to fit the new reality. And yeah, definitely there could be a signal in more primitive man that, for whatever trigger mechanism, would because a mutation like with the supernova 40,000 years ago that they think, scientists claim created the modern humans. Most genetic mutations create, they devolve a species, not evolve. It takes about 5,000 viable of anything to maintain a species. So whatever it was in mass that we were created, a turnkey as modern humans.
But hey, they have evidence of modern humans going back, I believe is in Madagascar somewhere, the exact same way we are now, going back over 200,000 years. So it's not like all of a sudden, boom, that happened. But we've been around in this state for a lot longer than that science and history has been willing to accept.
There was at least almost a dozen what we would consider modern humans with at least our size brain or larger, and the opposable thumbs and the same feet that can go back up to 500,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
But from Cro-Magnon and or from the Neanderthals and the Denisovians, we're the last of the line. We don't know why.
Yeah. Well, we're
I'm just
not the last.
Say,
Go ahead, Tom.
Rob has owed me in this for a freaking. Okay, I'm doing that for the show for 1 year. Now imagine the evolution of this guy in 20 years. How smart he's going to goddamn be. Impressive. I'm just got to say, Rob, I'm impressed.
Yeah, Rob.
Surrounding myself with guys like
Blow
you,
me
it helps
away.
me catch up.
Julie has aliens now?
Me too.
Ooh. Talk with public land for a while, reported Squash. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But I tell you, this has been a great conversation, a great show. Oh God, we've got a bunch of great super chats in here today. God dang, it's been one heck of a show. I mean, whoever thought that we're going to be talking about that UFO podcast interview analysis, that we're going to get a call in from Lue Elizondo. My God, it's been one heck of a day to say the least.
Great. I was happy to sit backstage and just quietly listen. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
Lou is such a champ.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I'm just getting into the back end of the channel right now, not needing it. I'm going to probe the back end of YouTube. And on that note, I want to
Out
go
loud,
ahead.
he said that.
And on that
Right
note, I
here
want
on
to
the
thank
show.
everybody for their wrong one right here. I want to thank everybody for their super chats today. Holy cow, we had a lot of them come in. Whoever thought that Lou would be coming in today and talking about this, we had the ability to go ahead and share parts of the interview. Remember, we've only shown part of the interview from That UFO Podcast interview with Lue Elizondo. I've got a link to that video down in the description. Be sure to check it out. And if you like what's going on the UFO Podcast, just don't subscribe to us. Subscribe to him as well, because he's got a lot of great content and things that are coming out. As for the people who gave us some super chats today, holy cow, let's go in reverse direction. We had Chan, Ain Anth, the UK interdimensional arrival in Stargate D, David, I think, Julie Fletcher, Philip Marlowe, Eli McGinnis, Kristen Morales, Anonymity. Wait, and did you? Well, maybe
Anonymous
today.
Rex.
No,
I might
that's
have.
everybody today. I went a little bit further back, but I want to thank everybody for all the super chats we had. We had a whole bunch of more people come in the chat, a bunch of subscribes. It's kind of one of those things. But some people got timed out here and there. Let's just be a little bit relaxed on it. And I kind of brought some people back who are throwing out. I don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater, but always be respectful of the people in the chat and the people on the show. Think of this as like your virtual venue to go ahead and talk about the phenomena, to talk about where we're at, and more importantly, I want to we've also had some more people added to the Wrench Army today, as Julie Farrell's bringing up. But I want to thank all the people in the chat. There's a long list of them. You got Ain Anth, Anna Kaufer, Avi M, Black Dragon, Bob Birkins, Cliff C. Ghost came out today. Jan, Joshua, Godson, Julie Farrell, Julie Fletcher. Thanks again for that super chat, Julie. Logan Black, Linda Thompson was here the whole day. Margaret, no, call me Peggy. Peggy, thanks a lot. Michael Elwell, No Wash, MS2, Rob Hellerly, also known as Robin Hood 1966, The Lazarus Projects, Tom King, Tom Whitmore, Nikki X1, and Xavier Gamer. More importantly, I want to thank everybody that we had on our panel today. We had Tom
Eli,
King.
thank you.
Thank you, Tom King, for coming out and everything today. We didn't get to look at those
Last-minute
videos.
super
We'll have
chat.
to bring you back on our next show so we can look at that additional work. We went off in a different direction, but it was a good one to say the least. Rob Heatherly, hopefully your kneecap is feeling a little bit better with that call from Lou. It looked like after that Lou call came in, he just kind of washed it all away. Hopefully you can put it up and feel better. Thanks to my co-hosts, of course, and also on the panel, we had Tim Senor. Tim, thanks for coming around today. Sorry I didn't
My
see you in the back room soon enough, but I did bring you
Well,
in.
that's okay.
I appreciate you
Thank
be
you.
able to spend the time and everything. More importantly, I want to thank everybody for coming out here today. We appreciate all of you. We love you. We thank you, and we look forward to seeing you all again on our next show on Monday night, which is going to be, as I usually say, where's that at? If I can find it. There we go.
Thank you, Eli.
Hmm?
Eli dropped you a $5 right at the last second.
Son of a gun. Eli McGinnis, wait. Change that.
Eli, you rock.
I didn't super chat. Haha. Happy weekend, guys. Apparently, that may have been from yesterday. Went down that list a little too quickly. But thanks, Eli McGinnis, and we appreciate you coming out and everything here today. And thanks for the additional super chat. Wow. Such a great day. But more importantly, I want to put out a big thanks, a huge thanks to none other than, where is it at? I can bring it back here.
Mr. Lou Elizondo.
Mr. Lou Elizondo. Thanks, Lou. Appreciate for coming out. Jennifer, sorry for getting in the way on stuff today. We appreciate you greatly for being here today. You all have a great weekend, and I'm trying to find a good frame here for him.
Thanks, Lou.
There we go. As I usually say at the end of every single show, let me go ahead and finish this one off. And I want to say, eyes open, no fear. Be safe, everyone.
Go back to Party City where you belong.
Exactly. And we'll catch you on the flip side. Take care, everyone. We'll see you Monday night. Thanks. Bye-bye.